If she does this with her hands, she already chosen you kiss her or you lose her. Psychology tricks. Most women will never walk straight up to a man and say, "I've chosen you. Come here and kiss me." That almost never happens. Attraction rarely announces itself in loud words. Instead, it whispers through subtle signals, small movements, quiet gestures, the language of the body. And one of the most overlooked places where that language appears is in a woman's hands. As the writer Annie Sneen once said, "Love never dies a natural death. It dies because we don't know how to replenish its source." Very often, that source is attention, the ability to notice what others overlook. Many men wait for obvious signs, a direct compliment, a clear invitation, a bold confession of interest. But human attraction rarely works that way. Women often communicate interest indirectly, through behavior rather than statements. And one of the clearest channels of that communication is body language, especially the hands. Hands are surprisingly honest. A person can control their voice, rehearse their smile, or carefully choose their words. But hands move naturally, often without conscious control. Because of that, they tend to reveal genuine emotions more reliably than facial expressions or spoken language. Researchers studying nonverbal communication have even found that women often send multiple signals of attraction before a man realizes what is happening. By the time a man begins wondering whether she might be interested, she may have already expressed curiosity or openness several times through subtle gestures. That is why paying attention matters. In everyday situations, during a conversation at a cafe, while sitting across from someone on a date, or even during a casual interaction at work, hands often reveal comfort, nervous excitement, or emotional engagement. Small gestures like touching an object repeatedly, adjusting jewelry while maintaining eye contact, or lightly emphasizing words with the hands can all signal that someone is emotionally invested in the moment. Of course, body language is never a strict rulebook. No single gesture guarantees attraction. Context, personality, and the overall dynamic between two people always matter. But learning to observe these signals sharpens your awareness. You begin to see interactions more clearly. You stop second-guessing every moment and start understanding the rhythm of human connection. And once you become aware of these subtle cues, something interesting happens. Conversations feel different. You start noticing details you once ignored. The energy between people becomes easier to read. From that point on, the real question is not whether signals exist. They always do. The real question is whether you are attentive enough and confident enough to recognize the moment when opportunity quietly appears in front of you. 1. The hair touch redirect. Fortune favors the bold, wrote the Roman poet Virgil, and when it comes to attraction, that quiet truth shows up in the smallest gestures, especially the ones most men overlook. One of the most fascinating psychology tricks hidden in plain sight appears in something as simple as the way a woman touches her hair, and understanding this subtle signal opens a window into female psychology and even into how to fall in love more naturally. Let's start with the behavior almost every woman does when she feels drawn to someone, often without even realizing it. When a woman is genuinely attracted to you, her hands often move toward her hair. But don't misunderstand this moment. Not every hair touch means something. The difference lies in the way it happens. A woman who is simply adjusting her hair will move quickly. She'll fix a strand, tuck it behind her ear, and her hand disappears just as fast as it arrived. It's mechanical, casual, almost forgettable. But when attraction enters the picture, the motion changes completely. Her hand rises to the side of her face, fingers brushing lightly through her hair, and then, this is the important part, it slowly drifts downward, gliding from her hair to her neck or collarbone. The movement lingers. It slows down. It becomes almost deliberate, even though she may not be consciously planning it. That slow trailing motion is one of the classic psychology tricks revealed by female psychology because it quietly draws your attention to her neck, one of the most sensitive and vulnerable areas of the human body. In evolutionary psychology, the neck represents trust and openness. When someone exposes that area without tension, It sends a powerful subconscious signal of comfort. In other words, her body is saying something before her words ever do. Her subconscious is whispering, I feel safe here. I am comfortable with you. And safety is the foundation of attraction. It's the emotional doorway through which how to fall in love often begins. Researchers have even studied this behavior carefully. Social psychologist Dr. Monica Moore from Webster University spent over 20,000 hours observing interactions in social settings, cafes, bars, and everyday environments where people meet and connect. After thousands of hours of observation, she documented that the combination of hair touching and subtle neck exposure ranked among the most reliable signals of female interest. 20,000 hours watching the dance of human attraction may sound unusual, but it revealed something simple and powerful. Attraction often speaks through body language long before it shows up in words. And that is where many men miss the moment. They stay focused on the conversation alone. They analyze sentences. They listen for obvious declarations that never come. But attraction rarely announces itself so directly. Instead, it appears through small signals, glances, posture, and gestures like the hair touch redirect. When a woman keeps lifting her hand toward her hair, letting her fingers brush along the strands, and then slowly glide down to her neck while she is talking to you, she is not just passing time. That lingering motion is attention. It is awareness. It is a subtle invitation for emotional engagement. She is highlighting her presence in a quiet way that your subconscious can recognize instantly. This is why understanding psychology tricks and female psychology becomes so valuable for men who want to understand how to fall in love and build authentic attraction. Because attraction isn't about memorizing lines or performing tricks. It's about noticing the signals that are already there. When you recognize these cues, you respond differently. You become more present. Your eye contact becomes steadier. Your energy becomes calmer. You stop trying to impress and start connecting. And that shift matters more than most people realize. Don't rush the moment. Don't panic and try to force a dramatic move. Be attentive. That is the real skill. If you notice her hand drifting to her hair again and again, fingers trailing down to her neck while she looks at you, understand what her body is quietly communicating. She is comfortable. She is engaged. She is inviting the interaction to deepen. The worst mistake a man can make in that moment is ignoring it completely. Many men stay trapped in their own thoughts. They keep talking endlessly about work, sports statistics, or random stories while the subtle dance of attraction unfolds right in front of them. From her perspective, silence from you doesn't look like patience. It looks like disinterest. And when that happens, the emotional door quietly closes. She withdraws. The signals disappear. The connection fades before it even begins. This is why awareness is so powerful. When you understand female psychology, you begin to see that attraction is rarely loud. It's quiet, elegant, almost poetic. A glance that lasts half a second longer than usual. A smile that arrives before the joke finishes. A hand brushing hair while her neck becomes visible for just a moment. These tiny gestures are the language beneath the language. They are the real psychology tricks of human connection. And once you learn to see them, conversations change. You become more grounded. You respond with confidence instead of confusion. You notice when the energy between two people begins to shift into something warmer, something more personal. That is the beginning of how to fall in love, not through dramatic speeches or perfect lines, but through attention, presence, and emotional awareness. So the next time you're sitting across from a woman and her hand rises slowly to her hair, brushing softly along the side of her face before drifting down toward her neck, pause for a moment and pay attention. Don't dismiss it. Don't overthink it. Simply recognize it for what it often is, a small, subconscious signal of comfort and attraction. One of the many psychology tricks hidden inside female psychology that quietly guides the early stages of connection. Because attraction rarely shouts, it whispers. And the men who learn to hear those whispers are the ones who understand not only the art of conversation, but the deeper rhythm of how to fall in love. 2. The object caress. This one is subtle, quiet, almost invisible if you do not know what you are looking for. And that is exactly why so many men miss it completely. A woman will rarely announce attraction with words. She will not lean across the table and declare, "I am interested in you." That is not how it usually works. Attraction often shows itself through small movements, small gestures, tiny signals that pass between two people in the silence between sentences. And one of the most overlooked signals is something psychologists call object displacement. Here is how it appears. You are sitting together, maybe at a cafe, maybe at a restaurant, maybe at a quiet bar. Conversation is flowing. Nothing dramatic is happening. Yet while you speak, she slowly begins to run her fingers along an object in front of her. The stem of a wine glass, the edge of a coffee cup, the corner of a menu. Her fingers trace the shape slowly, almost absent-mindedly. Now here is the part most men misunderstand. They assume it means nothing. They think she is bored, distracted, maybe just fidgeting. They glance at her hand and think, wow, she really seems fascinated with that coffee cup. No, that is not what is happening. In many cases, that gentle movement is not about the object at all. It is about you. Psychologists describe this behavior as object displacement. It happens when someone feels a physical impulse, often the urge to touch, but the situation does not yet make that touch socially comfortable. The mind redirects that energy. Instead of touching the person, the body transfers the movement to the nearest object. Think about that for a moment. Her body wants contact, but the moment is still early. Maybe you just met. Maybe the date is still unfolding. Maybe she's being careful. So instead of reaching across the table, her fingers start tracing the rim of the glass. Slowly, gently, repeatedly. Her hands are releasing the tension of attraction. A research team at the University of Manchester once studied these subtle behaviors in social environments and found something fascinating. Tactile displacement movements, like touching nearby objects, can increase by more than 60% when someone is sitting near a person they find attractive. 60%. That is not random. That is the body speaking its own language. So when her fingers slowly glide along the glass in front of her, understand what you may be witnessing. That is not boredom. That is not distraction. That is attraction trying to stay polite. Her body is managing energy. You see, attraction creates tension in the human nervous system. The body wants connection. It wants closeness. It wants contact. But social awareness tells us to move gradually, to wait for the right moment. So the energy needs somewhere to go. And often, it goes to the nearest object within reach. This is why a man who truly understands human behavior does not ignore these small moments. A high-value man pays attention to them. He observes quietly. He notices patterns. He reads the room without rushing to conclusions. And this is important. Do not panic when you see the signal. Do not suddenly become awkward. Do not jump across the table trying to force something. That is not confidence. That is impatience. Instead, stay calm. Stay grounded. Be present. Masculine presence is not loud. It is steady. A high-value man understands that attraction grows in comfortable space, not in pressure. When you notice a gesture like this, simply allow the moment to breathe. Continue the conversation. Maintain eye contact. Let your masculine energy remain relaxed and centered. That calm energy is powerful. Women feel it immediately. When a man is composed, attentive, and emotionally steady, he naturally attracts women without trying too hard. His presence becomes safe, interesting, magnetic. And when she feels that, the signals often grow stronger. Maybe the glass tracing continues. Maybe her fingers start playing with her necklace. Maybe she begins lightly brushing her hair behind her ear while she looks at you. These gestures are not random habits. They are pieces of a silent conversation. And here is the funny part. Many men spend hours studying complicated dating advice while completely ignoring the simple signals happening right in front of them. They analyze text messages. They worry about clever lines. They try to memorize tricks. Meanwhile, the woman sitting across from them is already revealing interest through her body language. but only the attentive man sees it. That is why emotional awareness matters. The man who can quietly read the room often becomes the one who naturally attracts women without chasing them. He is not forcing attraction. He is recognizing it when it appears. So if you notice her fingers slowly tracing circles around the rim of her glass, pause for a moment. Look at the situation as a whole. Notice her eye contact. Notice the rhythm of the conversation. Notice whether she leans slightly forward when you speak. Attraction is rarely communicated through one signal alone. It is usually a cluster of subtle cues working together. Do not rush. Do not overthink. Just observe. Confidence is calm awareness. A high-value man trusts what he sees without becoming reactive. He understands that attraction is not a performance. It is a dance. A quiet exchange of signals between two people discovering whether they feel something together. And when you hold your frame, when your masculine energy remains steady and relaxed, you create the exact environment where those signals continue to appear. So next time you are sitting across from a woman and you see her fingers slowly moving along the edge of her glass, remember this. She is not fascinated with the glass. She is managing the energy of attraction. The object is simply standing in for something else. And if you are calm, attentive, and present, you may soon discover that the distance between the object and your hand begins to disappear. Attraction rarely announces itself with words. It shows up in quiet signals, small movements, subtle touches, and the man who understands them moves with calm confidence while everyone else stays confused. So if this insight opened your eyes, drop a comment right now and write, "I noticed the signals and I act with confidence." Because a high-value man does not sit there guessing. He observes. He reads the moment. He trusts his masculine energy and responds with calm certainty. That awareness is exactly what helps a man attract women without chasing or forcing anything. Like this video, subscribe for more timeless psychology and Stoic wisdom, and remember this, attraction whispers. Only the attentive man hears it. 3. The arm touch initiation. When a woman reaches out and touches your arm during a conversation, understand something clearly. A quiet boundary has just been crossed, and it rarely happens by accident. Physical touch is one of the most deliberate signals in human interaction because it requires a person to override their instinct to protect personal space, and people simply do not do that casually with someone they feel nothing for. If she places her hand lightly on your forearm while laughing at something you said, pay attention. That is not random movement. If she taps your shoulder to emphasize a point, do not dismiss it as simple conversation. That is her testing the waters. She is observing you. She is measuring your response. Do you lean slightly closer, comfortable and present? Do you freeze and retreat? Or do you respond naturally, calm and grounded? In that brief moment, she learns more about you than in 10 minutes of talking. Modern psychology confirms what human beings have intuitively known for centuries. Research published in the Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that a light, friendly touch during conversation can increase perceived attractiveness by nearly 40% in both directions. Think about that. When she touches you, she is not only signaling that she feels attraction, she is also amplifying the connection between you. The moment becomes warmer. The tension shifts. The atmosphere changes. Women have understood this social language long before any study was written about it. This is not manipulation. It is instinct. It is awareness. It is emotional intelligence expressed through action. And this is where many men miss the moment because they hesitate, overthink, or doubt themselves. But remember the words often attributed to Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength is what old Stoic wisdom has always tried to teach. Stay steady, stay present, stay aware. When a woman touches your arm once, she is signaling curiosity. When it happens again, she is signaling growing comfort. When it happens repeatedly and you still stand there uncertain, she begins to question your confidence, your awareness, even your interest. This is not about rushing or forcing anything. Stoicism win is about calm perception. It is about seeing reality clearly without panic or ego. A man with an iron mind does not react with nervous energy. He responds with composed awareness. He continues the conversation. He maintains eye contact. He allows the moment to breathe. That calm confidence is powerful because it shows emotional stability, something people crave deeply in modern life, where everything feels rushed, distracted, and superficial. Today, many conversations happen through screens, messages, and emojis. Real physical presence has become rare. That is why moments like a simple touch on the arm carry even greater meaning now than they did decades ago. They cut through the noise. They reveal intent. And a man guided by old Stoic wisdom understands that the key is not to chase signals, but to observe them clearly and respond with grounded confidence. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." If you want to be the man who leads his life with clarity, then act like the man who notices what others miss. Notice the tone of her voice. Notice the direction of her body. Notice the small contact of her hand against your arm. These signals are not random. They're part of the silent language of connection that human beings have used since long before smartphones and dating apps complicated everything. Do not rush. Do not panic. But do not ignore reality either. A man with an iron mind understands timing. He understands awareness. He understands presence. Stoicism win is not about emotional distance. It is about emotional mastery. It teaches you to stay calm while others become confused. It teaches you to remain confident while others doubt themselves. When you combine that calm mindset with awareness of human signals, you become someone who moves through social moments with quiet authority. Remember another powerful line often linked to Seneca: luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. That light touch on your arm may be opportunity. Preparation is your mindset. Preparation is your ability to stay relaxed, grounded, and attentive. Modern life often trains men to overanalyze every interaction, to seek perfect strategies, perfect lines, perfect timing. But connection rarely works that way. Connection happens in moments of presence. A laugh, a glance, a hand on your arm. And the man who lives by old Stoic wisdom understands that the goal is not to control the moment, but to meet it with clarity and strength. Be the man who notices. Be the man who stays calm. Be the man who understands that attraction often speaks quietly before it ever speaks loudly. That is the power of an iron mind. That is the quiet advantage of Stoicism win. And when you carry that mindset into modern life, into conversations, relationships, and everyday interactions, you stop guessing. You start seeing. And the man who sees clearly is already halfway to mastering the moment. 4. The palm flash. There is a moment in conversation that most men miss completely, a small physical detail so subtle that it slips under the radar, yet it reveals more about attraction than long speeches ever could. And this moment is what many psychologists quietly refer to as the palm flash. When a woman begins speaking with her hands and you notice her palms opening toward you, resting on the table facing upward, gesturing naturally while she talks, or even handing you something with her palm gently turned upward, pay attention. Because this is not random movement. This is one of the quiet psychology tricks hidden inside everyday human behavior. In the study of female psychology, open palms are strongly connected to trust, emotional openness, and subconscious comfort. Think about the contrast for a moment. Closed hands send a completely different message. Clenched fists signal tension. Hands tucked away under the table suggest distance. Arms folded tightly across the body often create a barrier. But open palms facing you communicate the opposite energy. They quietly say, "I feel safe here. I am open in this moment." That is the language of the body, and the body almost never lies. Evolutionary psychologists often point out that thousands of years ago, humans showed open palms to demonstrate that they carried no weapons and meant no harm. It was a survival signal, a primitive gesture of trust. And even today, that ancient signal still lives inside modern behavior. When a woman repeatedly shows you her open palms while speaking, she is not just moving her hands for decoration. Her nervous system is revealing comfort and receptiveness. This is one of those powerful psychology tricks that happens below conscious awareness. She is not thinking, let me show him my palms. Her body simply relaxes. Her gestures become fluid. Her palms naturally turn upward. And that shift is the body's quiet way of expressing openness toward you. Now, here is where many men misunderstand the moment. They assume attraction must always look dramatic, big smiles, obvious flirting, bold compliments. But female psychology often communicates attraction through small, subtle signals instead. The palm flash is one of those signals. It does not shout, it whispers. It appears in the middle of casual conversation when she tells a story, explains something, or laughs and gestures naturally. Watch closely. If her hands repeatedly open toward you, if her gestures feel relaxed and expressive, if her palms face you rather than hiding from you, that tells you something important about how she feels in your presence. She is comfortable. She is receptive. She is emotionally relaxed. And comfort is the foundation of attraction. This is where understanding how to fall in love becomes less about chasing attention and more about recognizing trust. Attraction grows when two people feel safe being themselves. So do not rush the moment. Do not overanalyze every gesture. Instead, stay calm. Be grounded. Continue the conversation with confidence and presence. When a woman's body language opens, your role is simple. Remain steady and attentive. Look her in the eyes when she speaks. Listen carefully. Respond with genuine interest. The famous writer Maya Angelou once said, "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." That insight captures the heart of female psychology perfectly. When she feels emotionally safe, her body relaxes. When her body relaxes, her signals become open. And those open signals, like the palm flash, are some of the most reliable psychology tricks revealing her comfort around you. But remember this important principle about attraction and how to fall in love. Openness invites leadership. When a woman subconsciously opens her body language toward you, she is creating space for connection. That is your moment to guide the interaction forward with calm confidence. Not pressure, not awkward hesitation, just steady presence. Continue the conversation. Share something meaningful. Make the moment feel natural and warm. Because attraction is not built through force, it is built through emotional rhythm. One person opens, the other responds. One person trusts, the other protects that trust. That is how real connection grows. And the palm flash is often the earliest physical clue that this process has already begun. So train your awareness. Watch the details. Observe the hands, the gestures, the rhythm of the conversation. If you see repeated open palms, relaxed movements, and expressive gestures directed toward you, recognize what is happening. Her body is signaling trust before her words ever say it. That is the quiet brilliance of female psychology. Attraction often appears in whispers before it ever speaks aloud. And the man who understands these small signals, the subtle psychology tricks hidden inside everyday behavior, is the man who knows how to move through conversations with calm awareness, genuine confidence, and the quiet understanding of how to fall in love in a natural, respectful way. If this opened your eyes, don't just sit there and miss the signal next time. Pay attention. Watch her hands. Because when a woman shows you her open palms, she is revealing trust without saying a word, and men who understand this quiet language never stay confused for long. If this insight helped you see attraction more clearly, like the video, subscribe for more powerful psychology, and drop this line in the comments to lock the lesson into your mind. When her palms open, her trust is showing. 5. The finger graze on your hand. Now we are stepping into territory where a woman is almost spelling the message out for you without saying a single word. When a woman finds a reason to touch your hand, whether she is comparing hand sizes with a playful smile, joking that she can read your palm, or lightly brushing her fingers against yours while handing you something, understand what is happening in that moment. That is not random. That is not accidental. That is a signal, a quiet but powerful signal. In many social situations, hand-to-hand contact is one of the most intimate forms of non-romantic touch that can exist between two people who are still getting to know each other. It carries meaning. It carries curiosity. And most importantly, it carries intention. A man who understands this does not panic or overreact. He observes. He stays calm. He reads the moment with clarity, the way a high-value man naturally does when he moves through the world with awareness. There is a biological reason why this moment feels different from any other casual touch. The hands contain one of the highest concentrations of nerve endings in the entire human body. They're incredibly sensitive. When her fingers graze yours, something subtle but powerful happens beneath the surface. Both of your brains release a small burst of oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It is the same chemical that creates feelings of warmth, connection, and emotional closeness. She feels it. You feel it. And here is the fascinating part. She knows that you feel it. That tiny moment of contact becomes a silent conversation between two nervous systems. No words. No dramatic gestures. Just energy passing through the simplest touch. But here is where so many men completely lose the moment. And it happens fast. She creates this electric point of connection, a small bridge between her body and yours. A spark, a signal that says, I am comfortable with you. I am curious about you. Yet instead of recognizing that signal, the man panics internally. His mind rushes. His body stiffens. And before he even realizes what he is doing, he pulls his hand away as if he just touched a hot stove. The moment collapses. The bridge disappears. The tension vanishes into thin air. Not because she lost interest, but because he showed hesitation in a moment that called for calm presence. Don't rush. Don't react like the moment is dangerous. Be steady. That is the key. When her fingers brush yours, stay there for just a second longer than usual. Not in a forced way. Not in a dramatic way. Simply allow the contact to breathe. Let the moment exist. This is where masculine energy becomes visible without a single word being spoken. A man who is comfortable with gentle physical contact communicates something powerful through his stillness. He is not nervous. He is not frantic. He is grounded. And that grounded presence is exactly what tends to attract women on a deeper level than loud confidence ever could. Think about it from her perspective for a moment. A woman who touches your hand in this way is quietly testing the emotional waters. She is asking a silent question. Are you comfortable being close to me? She is not looking for a rehearsed line. She is not looking for a dramatic move. She is simply watching how you handle the energy of that moment. If you stay relaxed, if your body language remains open, if your hand stays present instead of retreating instantly, you communicate something important. You are a man who is not afraid of closeness, not afraid of connection. That quiet courage is the signature of a high-value man who understands his own presence. There is also something deeply human about this kind of interaction. Throughout history, the hand has been a symbol of trust and cooperation. We shake hands when we meet. We hold hands when we care about someone. We reach out with our hands when we want to help. So when a woman allows her fingers to graze yours, she is tapping into a very old language, one that existed long before dating advice or social media ever appeared. It is a language built on subtle gestures and emotional awareness. A man who learns to recognize that language develops a quiet advantage in understanding people. Now, let's be clear about something important. The goal is not to overanalyze every tiny touch. Not every brush of the hand carries deep meaning. Sometimes a moment is simply a moment. But when the touch feels intentional, when it lingers just slightly longer than necessary, when her body language stays open instead of pulling away, that is when you should pay attention. This is where awareness separates an average reaction from the calm response of a man who truly understands social dynamics. Don't grab her hand aggressively. Don't turn the moment into something heavy. Be natural. Be composed. A slight pause. A relaxed smile. A moment of eye contact. That is often more powerful than any clever line you could say. This is how masculine energy expresses itself, not through pressure or force, but through calm certainty. And ironically, that calm certainty is exactly what tends to attract women in ways that feel effortless rather than forced. The truth is, attraction rarely arrives with flashing lights and loud announcements. Most of the time, it appears in quiet moments like this: a hand brushing another hand, a pause that lasts half a second longer than expected, a shared awareness that something just happened between two people. When a man learns to recognize these small windows of connection, he stops chasing approval and starts responding to opportunity. So remember this simple principle: when the moment happens, hold it gently. Don't flinch. Don't rush. Let the contact breathe for a heartbeat longer. That single second of calm presence can communicate more confidence than 1,000 words ever could. And when she sees that you are comfortable in that moment, comfortable with closeness, comfortable with connection, something shifts in her mind. She looks at you with a new level of curiosity, a new level of interest. And somewhere in her thoughts, a quiet sentence begins to form: yeah, this is the one. 6. The wrist exposure. The wrist exposure signal is one of the quietest signs a man can notice, yet it carries extraordinary meaning if you understand human behavior with clarity and patience. Many men overlook it because they are searching for loud signals, dramatic gestures, or obvious invitations. But attraction rarely works that way. Attraction speaks softly. Attraction reveals itself through small openings. The inner wrist is one of the most sensitive and vulnerable areas of the human body. The skin there is thin. The veins are visible. The pulse can be felt easily. Across human history, exposing this part of the body has signaled comfort and trust. So when a woman rests her arms on the table with her wrists facing upward, when she slowly adjusts a bracelet and allows her wrist to remain visible in your direction, or when she leans her chin on her hand with her wrist gently turned toward you, understand what you are witnessing. This is not random. This is instinct speaking. This is a biological signal that says, without words, I feel safe here. The respected anthropologist Dr. David Givens, director of the Center for Nonverbal Studies, has written about how wrist exposure often appears in moments of romantic interest. It is difficult to fake because it comes from the unconscious mind. When someone feels guarded, they close their body. Arms cross. Hands hide. Wrists disappear. But when someone feels comfortable, the body opens naturally. The wrist turns outward. The pulse becomes visible. It is a small act of vulnerability, and vulnerability is always a form of trust. Remember this carefully. Trust is the currency of attraction. Without trust, nothing grows. With trust, connection expands quickly. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "What we do now echoes in eternity." In modern life, that wisdom applies even to the small moments on a date. One quiet gesture, one moment of courage, one simple action can change the direction of a relationship. When you notice this signal, do not panic. Do not overanalyze. Simply become present. Observe. Be calm. A man guided by old Stoic wisdom understands that emotional steadiness creates magnetic presence. You do not rush. You do not hesitate endlessly either. You move with calm certainty. That balance is the mark of a man with an iron mind. In today's world, many men freeze because they fear making the wrong move. They overthink every signal. They hesitate until the moment passes. But attraction lives in timing. When a woman shows trust through subtle body language, she is opening a door. And doors are meant to be walked through, not stared at, not analyzed forever. Walk through them with respect and calm confidence. Lean in slightly. Lower your voice. Hold eye contact. If the moment feels natural, gently take her hand. The wrist she exposed is the bridge between two people. It is her saying she feels safe enough to lower her guard. And safety is powerful. Safety allows connection to grow. Safety allows chemistry to turn into something real. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." If you wish to be the man who leads calmly in relationships, then act like him. Be decisive. Be aware. Be present. This is the spirit behind Stoicism: mastering your emotions so your actions become clear and purposeful. The modern dating world often encourages confusion, endless texting, endless analysis, endless waiting. But attraction still follows the same ancient patterns that governed human behavior thousands of years ago. People open up when they feel safe. People lean closer when they feel understood. And people show trust through their body before they ever say it with words. Wrist exposure is one of those ancient signals that has survived through generations because it communicates something primal, vulnerability combined with interest. And when a woman offers vulnerability, she is offering a rare gift. Handle that moment with awareness. Do not treat it casually. Do not ignore it. Respond with grounded confidence. A man with an iron mind does not rush recklessly, but he also does not let opportunity disappear because of fear. He recognizes the moment and acts with calm strength. That is the difference between men who constantly wonder, what if, and men who create real connection. Remember this clearly. Attraction rewards presence. If you are distracted by your phone, your doubts, or your overthinking, you will miss these signals every time. But if you train yourself through old Stoic wisdom to observe quietly and remain emotionally steady, the signals become obvious. The room slows down. The moment becomes clear. You notice the small things, the direction of her body, the rhythm of her voice, the openness of her hands, the gentle exposure of her wrist. And when you see those signs repeatedly, understand the message beneath them. She is comfortable with you. She trusts the energy between you. And trust invites leadership. That is why men who embody calm clarity often experience deeper connections. They are not louder. They are not more dramatic. They are simply present and decisive. This is the essence of Stoicism win in relationships, mastering your inner world so you can move confidently in the outer one. When you combine awareness with action, subtle signals transform into meaningful moments. The exposed wrist becomes an invitation to closeness. The quiet gesture becomes the beginning of a story. And the man who recognizes it, who acts with calm certainty and an iron mind, often discovers that the smallest signals can lead to the most powerful connections. If you recognize this signal, don't hesitate and don't overthink it. When a woman exposes her wrist toward you, she is showing trust and openness that most men completely miss. That moment is rare. That moment is your invitation to step forward with calm confidence. So if this insight opened your eyes, like the video, subscribe for more wisdom, and drop this line in the comments right now to lock it into your mindset. When trust is shown, I move with confidence. Hello, my friend. I'm really glad you stayed with me all the way to the end of this video. That already tells me something important about you. You are someone who wants to understand people better and move through life with more awareness and confidence. And that alone puts you ahead of many men who simply drift through these moments without ever noticing what is happening right in front of them. Here is the honest advice I want to leave you with. Attraction rarely announces itself with loud words. Most of the time, it whispers through small actions. A touch on your arm, fingers brushing your hand, an exposed wrist, a palm turned open toward you. These are not random movements. They are quiet invitations. But those invitations do not stay open forever. When a woman sends those signals, she is testing the connection. She is asking without speaking, do you see me? Do you feel this too? If nothing comes back, no warmth, no confidence, no response, the moment slowly fades away. So the real lesson from everything we discussed today is simple. Pay attention, trust the moment, and do not let hesitation steal opportunities from you. When the energy is there, respond with calm confidence, not with pressure, not with overthinking, just with presence. Sometimes that means returning a touch, holding her hand, or leaning in for a kiss that says, without words, I understand the connection between us. Life is full of small windows like this. They open quietly and they close quietly. The men who succeed in relationships are not the ones who know the most theories. They are the ones who notice the moment and have the courage to step into it. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate every one of you who watches, learns, and grows with this channel. And if you want to understand the next level of attraction signals, the ones that are even clearer than what a woman does with her hands, Make sure you watch the next video about the specific places a woman allows you to touch when she has already chosen you. Trust me, that knowledge will change the way you see every interaction from now on. Women naturally go toward men who have this kind of energy. Psychology tricks. Here's a truth most men were never taught, and it changes everything once you truly understand it. Attraction is not built on what you have, it's built on who you are. As Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "What you are speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say." That is the foundation. Many men believe they must rely on looks, money, or status to draw women in, but those are only surface-level advantages. They might open a door, but they do not create real connection. What truly pulls a woman in, often without her even realizing it, is your energy, your presence, your emotional state, the way you carry yourself when no one is watching. You've seen this man before. He walks into a room and doesn't demand attention, yet attention naturally moves toward him. He isn't trying to impress. He isn't performing. He's simply grounded. Women feel at ease around him. They smile more. They lean closer. Conversations flow. Meanwhile, another man who seems more qualified on paper fades into the background. The difference is not external, it is internal. It is how one man shows up versus how the other tries too hard. Most men are taught to chase, to prove, to impress. But that mindset quietly destroys attraction. Because when you seek validation, you communicate doubt. When you try to win approval, you give away your power. And people, especially women, can feel that instantly. Real attraction moves in the opposite direction. It grows in the presence of calm confidence, a steady energy, a man who is not rushing, not forcing, not needing. This is the energy women naturally gravitate toward. Not loud, not arrogant, not overbearing, just quiet certainty, a sense that you understand yourself, that you are comfortable in your own skin, that you can handle pressure without losing control. It shows in your tone, your posture, your silence, your patience. It is not something you switch on for effect. It is something you build over time through discipline and self-respect. And here is the shift that changes everything. Attraction is not something you chase outside of you. It is something you cultivate within you. When your energy is right, people feel it before you even speak. When your presence is grounded, you don't need to convince anyone of your value. They sense it. So instead of asking, "How do I impress her?" start asking, "Who am I becoming when no one is looking?" Because in the end, women don't move toward effort. They move toward energy. 1. Stop trying to impress women. Stop trying to impress women. Stop it completely. That habit feels logical, but it quietly works against you. Many men believe attraction is built by showcasing achievements, money, status, intelligence, humor, but what they don't see is the hidden signal behind that effort. When you try too hard, you communicate need. You say, without words, "I hope I'm enough." And in the world of female psychology, that message weakens attraction instantly. Women don't respond to effort the way men expect. They respond to energy. This is one of the most overlooked psychology tricks. Attraction is not created by what you show, but by how you carry yourself while showing it. A man who constantly performs creates tension. He talks too much. He tries to land every joke. He scans for approval. That is pressure. And pressure kills connection. Don't do that. Be calm. Be grounded. Be present. That is where real attraction begins. Understand this clearly. Confidence is not loud. It is quiet certainty. A man who knows his value does not rush to display it. He doesn't need validation in every moment. He doesn't chase reactions. That is the energy women naturally lean toward, often without even realizing it. This is where psychology tricks and female psychology intersect in a powerful way. When you remove the need to impress, you remove pressure. When you remove pressure, people feel safe. And when a woman feels safe, she opens up emotionally. That is how to fall in love, not through performance, but through presence. Look at it in real life. Two men enter a room. One tries to dominate the conversation. He lists accomplishments. He tries to be impressive at every turn. The other man is relaxed. He listens more than he speaks. He asks thoughtful questions. He smiles naturally. He shares when it feels right, not to prove anything, but to connect. Over time, the difference becomes obvious. People drift toward the second man, not because he is better on paper, but because he feels better to be around. That is the power of energy. That is the silent language of attraction that most men ignore. Don't misunderstand this. This doesn't mean you should hide your strengths. It means you don't lead with them as a tool for approval. Let them show naturally. Let people discover them. There is a big difference between sharing and proving. Sharing is calm. Proving is tense. Women pick up on that difference instantly, even if they can't explain it. That is why understanding female psychology is essential. Attraction is emotional before it is logical. It is felt before it is analyzed. So instead of asking, how can I impress her? Ask something better. How can I make this moment feel real? That shift changes everything. Focus on connection. Ask questions that matter. Listen with intention. Respond honestly. Don't rush. Don't force. Let the conversation breathe. This is one of the simplest yet most powerful psychology tricks you can apply immediately. Presence creates comfort. Comfort creates trust. Trust opens the door to attraction. That is how to fall in love in a way that feels natural, not forced. Be a man who is comfortable in silence. Be a man who doesn't panic when there is nothing to prove. Be a man who understands that his value is not something he needs to advertise constantly. That is what makes people curious. That is what makes a woman lean and instead of pull away. Curiosity grows when there is space. Attraction grows when there is ease. The truth is simple but often ignored. The more you try to impress, the more you push people away. The more you relax into yourself, the more they come closer. That is the paradox. That is the deeper layer of female psychology most men never learn. Stop performing. Start being. Stop chasing approval. Start owning your presence. Because in the end, a man who is at ease with himself creates an energy that cannot be faked. It is steady. It is grounded. It is real. And that kind of energy doesn't beg for attention. It naturally attracts it. 2. Attention is not attraction. Attention is not attraction. Say it again. Attention is not attraction. Many men miss this and pay the price in silence, confusion, and wasted effort. Just because a woman talks to you, laughs at your jokes, or chooses to spend time near you does not mean she feels that deeper pull toward you. Don't confuse comfort with desire. Don't confuse availability with interest. People enjoy attention. It feels warm, validating, easy. Women are no different. They can enjoy your presence, your messages, your consistency, without ever feeling the spark you are hoping for. That is where most men go wrong. They believe if they give more time, more texts, more availability, something will eventually click. But that belief quietly works against them. Because too much attention, too quickly, does not build attraction, it drains it. It removes mystery. It removes tension. It removes the very space where curiosity is born. Be honest with yourself. When everything is always available, what is there to look forward to? When every message is answered instantly, where is the anticipation? When a man is always there, always ready, always waiting, what is there to discover? That is why a high-value man moves differently. He does not rush. He does not flood a woman with attention in hopes of earning attraction. He understands that attraction is not something you chase, it is something you allow to grow. Slowly, naturally, with space in between. That is masculine energy. Calm, grounded, unhurried. It does not beg for validation. It does not try to prove itself every second. Many men think the more they give, the more they will attract women. But the truth is more subtle. Giving attention without restraint often signals something unintended. It shows a lack of balance. It suggests that your world revolves too quickly around her. And when that happens, the dynamic shifts. You are no longer a man with a full life inviting her into it. You become a man trying to fit into hers. Don't do that. Be the man who has his own direction, his own priorities, his own rhythm. That is what quietly builds attraction. Not noise, but presence. Not pressure, but patience. Imagine this clearly. A man who texts all day, every day. Good morning. How was your lunch? What are you doing now? Did you eat? Did you sleep? At first, it feels nice, even flattering. But soon, it becomes predictable. There is no surprise, no tension, no emotional movement. The experience becomes flat. Now imagine another man. He engages fully when he is present. He listens. He responds with intention. But he is not always there. He has things to do, a life to live, goals to pursue. When he disappears, it is not a game. It is simply because his world is full. And when he returns, the conversation feels fresh again. There is space. There is curiosity. There is something to look forward to. That is how a high-value man operates. That is how he attracts women without forcing, without chasing, without overextending. You must understand this deeply. Attraction grows in the space between moments, not in constant availability. It grows through shared experiences, not endless messaging. It grows through discovery, not overexposure. If everything is given too quickly, your time, your attention, your emotional investment, the experience loses value. Not because you are not worthy, but because nothing had time to breathe. And without space, there is no desire. Be disciplined. Don't reply instantly every time. Don't make yourself available at all hours. Don't overinvest before she has earned that level of access to you. That is not playing games. That is maintaining self-respect. That is masculine energy in action. Calm control, emotional independence, quiet confidence. You are not withholding. You are simply living your life fully. And that is what makes a difference. A man who chases attention feels anxious, reactive, always seeking the next response. A man who understands attraction feels steady, patient, grounded in his own world. One tries to impress. The other allows himself to be discovered. One overwhelms. The other invites. That is the difference. And women feel that difference immediately, even if they cannot explain it. So don't ask, how can I get more of her attention? Ask instead, am I living in a way that naturally attracts women? Because attention is easy. Anyone can give it. But attraction must be built. Slowly, intentionally, with space, with balance, with self-control. Be that man. Not the one who floods her world, but the one who adds value to it. Not the one who chases, but the one who chooses. That is how you become a high-value man. That is how you embody masculine energy. And that is how you truly attract women without ever needing to force it. And if this hit you, don't just watch, act. Drop a comment right now. I build attraction. I don't chase attention. 3. Women notice calm confidence. Nothing external to you has any power over you, wrote Marcus Aurelius, and that is where your power begins. Women notice calm confidence, but most men misunderstand what that actually looks like in real life. It is not loud. It is not about trying to control the room. It is not about forcing attention. Calm confidence is quiet. It is steady. It is controlled. And that is exactly why it stands out. You must understand this clearly. When you are calm, you are not just behaving differently, you are signaling something deeper. You are showing that your value does not depend on reactions, approval, or outcomes. That is old Stoic wisdom in motion. A man with calm confidence does not panic in silence. He does not rush to fill every gap with words. He does not feel the need to prove himself every second. He sits in the moment. He owns it. He lets it breathe. And that presence, that grounded stillness, creates a kind of gravity people feel without needing to explain it. When you are nervous, your mind starts racing. You overanalyze. You try to say the perfect thing. You try to impress. And that effort leaks through your body language, your tone, your timing. People feel that tension. Women feel that tension. But when you operate with an iron mind, everything slows down. Your words become intentional. Your actions become measured. Your presence becomes heavier, more grounded, more real. That is what Stoicism win is all about, mastering yourself so completely that nothing external shakes your core. If a joke fails, you do not collapse internally. You do not rush to recover. You stay steady. You smile. You move forward. That reaction alone communicates more strength than any perfect line ever could. If there is silence, you do not fear it. You sit comfortably in it. You let it exist. Because you understand something most men ignore: silence is not rejection, it is space. And a man who can sit in that space without breaking shows control, shows depth, shows presence. This creates something powerful: safety, stability. Women are naturally drawn to environments where they feel emotionally safe, where energy is predictable, where reactions are grounded instead of chaotic. When you remain calm under pressure, when you do not react impulsively, when you hold your frame no matter what happens, you become that environment. You become that steady point in a world full of noise. That is not an accident. That is trained behavior. That is discipline. That is old Stoic wisdom applied in modern life. But understand this clearly: calm confidence is not coldness. It is not distance. It is not disengagement. You can be warm. You can smile. You can connect. But you do not chase. You do not cling. You do not rush. There is a difference. And that difference is everything. As Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. If you decide to be a calm, grounded man, then your actions must reflect that identity at all times, especially under pressure. Another critical piece is patience. Most men move too fast. They push conversations. They push outcomes. They push for results before connection has had time to develop. That impatience reveals uncertainty. It shows a lack of trust in the process. But a man with calm confidence moves differently. He is not in a hurry. He understands that real attraction builds over time, not through force. He allows things to unfold naturally. He gives space. He observes. He responds instead of reacting. That is the behavior of someone who trusts himself deeply. And trust in yourself is one of the clearest signals of strength. When you move at your own pace, when you are not thrown off by delays, when you are not desperate for immediate results, you communicate something powerful without saying a word. You are enough as you are. You are not seeking validation. You are not chasing approval. You are grounded in your own identity. That is Stoicism when in its purest form. In today's world, where anxiety is everywhere, where people rush, react, and constantly seek attention, the calm man becomes rare. And rarity creates value. Think about it. Most people are restless. Most people are distracted. Most people are trying to prove something. So when someone encounters a man who is composed, steady, and fully present, it feels different. It feels refreshing. It feels safe. It feels real. That is why women naturally gravitate toward that energy. Not because it is loud, but because it is stable. Not because it demands attention, but because it does not need it. You must train this daily. This is not something you turn on in a moment. This is built through repetition. Control your reactions. Slow your speech. Breathe before you respond. Stay grounded when things do not go your way. Build that iron mind step by step. Because in the end, calm confidence is not something you perform, it is something you become. And once you become it, you do not need to chase anything. The right people will feel it. They will notice it. And they will come toward it naturally. 4. Neediness pushes women away. Neediness pushes women away, and you must understand this at a deeper level than most men ever do, because what looks like care on the surface is often just disguised insecurity underneath, and women, through subtle female psychology, can feel that difference instantly. Don't confuse attention with value. Don't confuse effort with attraction. Because when your emotional state rises and falls based on how fast she replies, you are no longer leading your life. You are reacting to hers. And that shift silently communicates, "I need you to feel okay," which creates pressure, and pressure quietly suffocates attraction every time. This is one of the most overlooked psychology tricks in dating. People are not drawn to those who need them. They're drawn to those who choose them. And there is a world of difference between the two. You must see it clearly, because many men overtext, overanalyze, and overextend themselves, thinking they are building connection, but in reality, they are signaling dependence. They're asking for approval without saying the words, and the energy behind their actions becomes louder than anything they say. As Marcus Aurelius taught, you have power over your mind, not outside events. And yet, when you are needy, you surrender that power completely. You hand it over to someone else's behavior, and that is never attractive. Don't do that. Don't build your confidence on unstable ground. Don't let a notification determine your worth. Because real attraction, deep, lasting attraction, grows when a man is centered, when he is emotionally steady, when he has direction that does not bend based on someone else's attention. That is how to fall in love truly begins, not through chasing, not through proving, but through presence, through calm strength, through a life that already has meaning before she enters it. Be the man who is interested, but not dependent. Be the man who enjoys her company, but does not rely on it. That is the balance most men miss. And here is another truth rooted in female psychology. Women are naturally drawn to emotional stability because it signals safety, clarity, and confidence. Not the loud kind, but the quiet, grounded kind that doesn't need validation to exist. So don't chase reassurance. Don't seek constant confirmation. That behavior creates invisible tension, and tension breaks attraction faster than rejection ever could. Instead, build something real within yourself. Build routines, goals, discipline. Create a life that excites you. Because when your life is full, your energy shifts without effort. You stop approaching from lack. You stop trying to win someone over. And you start connecting from a place of choice, and that is powerful. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it." And this is exactly where most men fail. They talk about confidence, but their actions reveal dependence. Don't be that man. Be consistent. Be grounded. Be focused. Because women don't fall for words. They respond to energy. And this is where these psychology tricks become real, not manipulation, but awareness. Awareness of how your internal state shapes external attraction. If you are constantly checking your phone, waiting, hoping, analyzing, you are shrinking your presence. But when you are engaged in your purpose, when your attention is invested in your growth, something changes. Your presence becomes magnetic. Your silence becomes meaningful. Your attention becomes valuable. And suddenly, you are no longer asking, "Does she like me?" You are calmly deciding, "Do I like her?" And that shift alone changes everything. Understand this clearly if you truly want to master how to fall in love in a way that is healthy and lasting. Attraction is not built through need. It is built through self-sufficiency, through emotional control, through a life that stands strong on its own. So build your life. Improve your mindset. Sharpen your focus. Because when your world is full, you don't chase, you attract. You don't depend, you choose. And in that space, you become the man women naturally move toward without you ever having to ask for it. If this hit you, don't just watch, act on it. Stop chasing validation. Start building a life that stands on its own. Like this video, subscribe for more grounded, powerful insight, and drop this in the comments right now to lock it in your mind. I choose strength over neediness. My life comes first. 5. Purpose is more attractive than looks. Purpose is more attractive than looks. Let that sink in, because most men spend years chasing the wrong edge. They polish the outside, but neglect the engine within. Don't misunderstand. Appearance has its place. It can open a door. It can spark a glance. But it cannot hold attention, and it certainly cannot build lasting attraction. That is where purpose steps in. That is where everything changes. Purpose is direction. Purpose is knowing where you are going, even when the road is unclear. It is waking up with intention, not drifting through the day reacting to everything and everyone. A man with purpose does not move like the crowd. He moves with clarity. He moves with discipline. He moves with quiet certainty. And that right there is the foundation of masculine energy. Be honest with yourself. Have you ever noticed how a man who is deeply committed to something, his work, his mission, his craft, carries himself differently? He is not louder. He is not trying harder. Yet people feel him. That is because purpose organizes your life. It removes the noise. It cuts out the need to constantly impress. You must understand this. When you have something meaningful to build, you stop chasing validation. You stop measuring your worth based on how others respond to you. That shift alone transforms how you show up. And when you show up differently, you naturally attract women without forcing anything. Don't be the man who checks his phone every few minutes hoping for approval. Don't be the man who adjusts his behavior just to be liked. That energy feels unstable. That energy repels. Instead, be the man who has something to do, somewhere to go, something to build. Be the man whose time is valuable because he has given it value. That is what a high-value man understands. His life is not centered around being chosen. His life is centered around creating something worth choosing. Purpose creates momentum, and momentum is deeply attractive. Think about it. When a man is improving, growing, building step by step, there is a sense of progress that follows him. He does not need to talk about it. He does not need to prove it. It shows in his posture, in his decisions, in the way he handles challenges. That is masculine energy in motion. And people, especially women, can feel that without needing it explained. You cannot fake momentum. You either have it or you don't. Without purpose, something dangerous happens. You fall into comparison. You start looking left and right, measuring yourself against other men. You begin to question your value based on what others have, what others show, what others seem to be. That creates insecurity. And insecurity leads to overthinking, overcompensating, and seeking constant reassurance. That is the trap. That is the cycle that keeps many men stuck for years. But the moment you lock into your own path, that noise fades. You are no longer competing. You are building. That is why purpose reduces neediness without you even trying. Because when your life has direction, attention becomes optional, not necessary. You enjoy it, but you don't depend on it. You appreciate it, but you don't chase it. And that subtle shift changes everything. It allows you to connect with others from a place of strength, not from a place of lack. That is what it means to be a high-value man. Not perfection, not status, but self-direction, self-respect, self-control. Let's go deeper. Purpose is not just about work or money. It is about becoming. It is about who you are shaping yourself into every single day. Are you becoming more disciplined, more focused, more grounded? Or are you drifting, reacting, waiting? You must ask yourself this honestly, because the man you are becoming determines the energy you carry, and the energy you carry determines what you attract. Attraction is not just about appearance. It is about momentum. A man who is growing, improving, building, he radiates progress. And progress is magnetic. People are naturally drawn to movement, to growth, to direction. That is why you can see two men in the same room. One may look better on the surface, but the other commands more attention without trying. Why? Because one is static and the other is moving forward. Always remember this. Stillness without purpose feels empty. Movement with purpose feels powerful. Be the man who is too focused to be distracted by every opinion. Be the man who chooses growth over comfort. Be the man who understands that attraction is a byproduct, not the goal. When you focus on becoming better, stronger, more disciplined, you naturally attract women who resonate with that energy. Not because you are trying to impress them, but because you are aligned with yourself. Don't chase attraction. Build a life that creates it. That is the difference most men never fully grasp. They think attraction is something you go out and get. No. Attraction is something that happens when your life is in order, when your direction is clear, when your actions are consistent. That is masculine energy at its core, calm, steady, forward-moving. And here is the truth that may challenge you. Purpose is not something you find once and keep forever. It is something you commit to daily. Some days will feel clear. Some days will feel uncertain. That is normal. What matters is that you keep moving. You keep building. You keep showing up. Because every step forward strengthens your identity. And a strong identity is what allows a high-value man to stand firm, regardless of external validation. So don't obsess over looks. Improve them, yes. Take care of yourself, absolutely. But don't make them your foundation. Because looks fade, trends change, and attention shifts. Purpose does not. Purpose anchors you. Purpose gives you direction when everything else feels uncertain. And that kind of stability is rare. That kind of stability is deeply attractive. In the end, people don't just respond to what they see. They respond to what they feel. And when you are a man with purpose, what they feel is clarity, strength, and movement. That is what allows you to attract women naturally, without pressure, without performance. Because you are not trying to be someone, you are becoming someone. And that journey, that quiet, steady, disciplined journey, is what truly sets you apart. 6. Emotional control is powerful. Emotional control is powerful. Not suppression, but control. That is the distinction most men miss, and that is where everything changes. You must understand this. Reacting is easy. Controlling yourself is mastery. Many men react too quickly. They snap when things don't go their way. They get defensive over small comments. They let their mood rise and fall based on someone else's behavior. That signals instability, not strength. As the old Stoic wisdom teaches, he who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior. This is not poetry. This is instruction. In modern life, text messages, social media, fast-paced interactions, your emotional reactions are constantly being tested. A delayed reply, a change in tone, a moment of silence. These are small things, but they reveal everything about you. If you lose your center over small things, you show that your state is controlled by the outside world. Do not do that. Be the man who stays steady. Be the man who pauses. Be the man who observes before he responds. That is what builds an iron mind. A man with emotional control does not rush to react. He thinks first. He chooses his response. He understands that not everything deserves his energy. He does not take things personally because he understands a deeper truth. People act based on their own experiences, their own stress, their own internal world. It is not always about you. That is maturity. That is clarity. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You must live by this. In relationships, in business, in daily life, your power is in your response. Not in what happens, but in how you handle it. That is where attraction begins. That is where respect grows. Because when a man is grounded, when he is calm under pressure, when he is not shaken by every little wave, people feel it. Women feel it. They trust it. They lean toward it. Do not confuse emotional control with being cold or distant. That is not the goal. The goal is balance. You feel, but you are not ruled by your feelings. You experience emotion, but you do not become it. That is the difference. That is Stoicism when in real life. You are present. You are aware. But you are steady. You are not chasing emotional highs. You are not addicted to constant validation. You are centered. And that presence is rare. In a world full of noise, the calm man stands out. In a world full of reactions, the composed man leads. Look at your own life. Think about the moments where things didn't go your way. A conversation that didn't unfold as expected. A woman who pulled back. A situation that felt uncertain. Did you react or did you respond? Did you stay grounded or did you let your emotions take control? Be honest, because growth starts with awareness, and improvement comes from discipline. Emotional control is not something you are born with. It is something you build, day by day, moment by moment, choice by choice. That is old Stoic wisdom applied in modern life. You must train yourself. When you feel the urge to react, pause. When you feel frustration rising, breathe. When you feel the need to explain yourself too quickly, hold back. Give yourself space. Give your mind time to lead instead of your emotions. This is how you build an iron mind. This is how you separate yourself from the average man. Because most men live on impulse. They speak without thinking. They act without awareness. They let emotions control their behavior. You must not follow that path. You must rise above it. And here is the result. When you master emotional control, everything changes. Your presence becomes calm, not tense. Your communication becomes clear, not reactive. Your relationships become stronger, not fragile. Women feel safe around you, not pressured. They see you as grounded, not unpredictable. And that creates attraction on a deeper level, not surface level attention. Real connection. Because stability is attractive. Consistency is attractive. Control is attractive. Remember this. Emotional control is not about holding everything in. It is about choosing what comes out. It is about leading yourself before trying to lead anything else. That is the foundation. That is the discipline. That is the power. And when you live this way, when you embody this level of control, you are no longer chasing reactions from the world. The world begins to respond to you. That is Stoicism win. That is the path of the man who has built an iron mind. If you made it this far, understand this: emotional control is not optional. It is your power. Most men react. Few men remain steady. And that is the difference that changes everything. If you're ready to stop reacting and start mastering yourself, take a stand right now. Comment this below and own it. I stay calm. I stay grounded. I control my emotions. 7. The man who walks away has power. The man who walks away has power. That idea sounds simple, but most men misunderstand it. They think power means control, chasing, convincing, or holding on tighter. Don't fall into that trap. That is not power. That is fear wearing a confident mask. Real power is quiet. Real power is independence. It is the ability to look at a situation, feel your emotions, and still choose what is right for you instead of what is comfortable. You must understand this deeply. When you can walk away from what disrespects you, confuses you, or drains your energy, you are no longer controlled by it. And that changes everything. In female psychology, this kind of grounded independence is deeply felt, even if it is never spoken out loud. Women are naturally drawn to men who are centered, not men who are trying too hard to hold on. These are not cheap psychology tricks. This is human nature. This is how attraction works at a deeper level. Many men stay where they should leave. They stay in conversations where they are not valued. They stay in relationships where they feel small. They stay in situations that slowly take away their confidence. Why? Because they fear loss. They fear being alone. They fear starting over. But here is the truth you must face. When you accept everything, you become anything. Your standards drop. Your presence weakens. Your energy becomes uncertain. And people feel that. Especially in female psychology, uncertainty creates doubt, and doubt quietly kills attraction. Don't ignore this. Be honest with yourself. If you stay where you are not respected, you are teaching others how to treat you. That is the hidden cost. That is why walking away is not loss. It is alignment. It is choosing yourself. A man with boundaries moves differently. He listens, but he does not chase approval. He gives, but he does not abandon himself. He shows interest, but he does not beg for attention. That is balance. That is strength. And that is exactly what many people overlook when they search for how to fall in love or how to attract someone meaningful. They look for lines, tactics, and quick psychology tricks, but they ignore the foundation, self-respect. Without it, nothing lasts. With it, everything becomes easier. Because when you respect yourself, you naturally filter out what is not right for you. You don't need to force connection. You don't need to overthink every message. You don't need to perform. You simply show up as you are, and that authenticity carries weight. Walking away removes desperation. And desperation is one of the most silent attraction killers. You may not say it, but people feel it. It shows in how quickly you respond, how much you tolerate, how often you second-guess yourself. Don't do that. Be steady. Be patient. Be willing to lose what is not aligned. That is how you gain control of your life again. In female psychology, a man who is not afraid to lose is often the man who is most respected. Not because he is cold, but because he is clear. He knows what he wants. He knows what he will accept. And more importantly, he knows what he will walk away from. That clarity creates a sense of safety and strength that cannot be faked. Understand this clearly. Walking away is not about ego. It is not about proving a point or trying to win. It is about self-respect. It is about saying, this is who I am, and I will not compromise my values just to keep something that is not right for me. That is a different kind of confidence. It is calm. It is grounded. It does not need validation. And ironically, that is what makes people value you more. Because when you don't cling, you become more attractive. When you don't chase, you become more interesting. When you don't fear loss, you become more powerful. These are not manipulative psychology tricks. This is alignment between your actions and your worth. If you want to understand how to fall in love in a healthy, lasting way, start here. Don't focus on getting someone. Focus on becoming someone who does not need to hold on to what is not right. That is the shift. That is the mindset. Because real connection is not built on fear. It is built on mutual respect, space, and emotional stability. And those qualities come from within, not from external validation. In female psychology, attraction grows where there is emotional safety and strength. Not pressure, not desperation, not confusion. So don't try to impress. Don't try to control. Be clear. Be grounded. Be willing to walk away when necessary. At the end of the day, the man who walks away is not losing. He is choosing. He is choosing peace over chaos. He is choosing respect over attention. He is choosing growth over comfort. And that decision, repeated over time, builds a life that is solid, confident, and deeply fulfilling. So remember this. Don't stay where you are tolerated. Be where you are valued. Don't chase what runs. Stand firm and let what aligns come to you. That is not just attractive. That is powerful. All right, my friend, if you've stayed with me all the way to the end, I want to speak to you honestly, like someone who truly wants to see you grow. The truth you need to remember is simple but powerful. Attraction is not something you chase. It's something you become. Many people spend years trying to say the right things, do the right things, impress the right people, but they forget the foundation. Your energy is everything. If inside you feel uncertain, if you depend on validation, if your emotions go up and down based on how others treat you, people will feel that. And slowly, attraction fades. But when you choose a different path, when you become calm, when you become grounded, when you build a life with purpose, everything changes. You stop reacting to every little thing. You stop overthinking. You stop chasing. And instead, you start attracting. Not because you are trying to control anyone, but because you are in control of yourself. That is real strength. That is self-mastery. And people are naturally drawn to that kind of presence. So here is my sincere advice to you. Focus on your life. Build your discipline. Strengthen your mind. Protect your peace. Don't let temporary emotions control your actions. Don't make someone else the center of your world. You must become your own center. Because when you do, you don't just become more attractive, you become unshakable. And I really want to hear from you. Think about your own experiences. Have there been moments when you gave a lot of attention but it led nowhere? Or moments when you pulled back, focused on yourself, and suddenly everything shifted? Share that below. Your story might help someone else more than you realize. Remember this and carry it with you. Attraction is a feeling. It cannot be forced. It cannot be negotiated. But it can be inspired through who you are, through your energy, through the way you live your life every single day. So stop chasing. Start building. Keep growing. And watch how everything begins to change around you in ways you never expected. Stay steady. Stay sharp. And I'll see you in the next video. The Psychology of Touch. 9 ways to make a mature woman fall in love. Psychology tricks. Love is not about how much you say, but how deeply you make someone feel without words. Let's talk honestly for a moment. Have you ever sat beside a woman, close enough to feel the quiet between you, and sense that something could happen, yet nothing did? That's subtle tension. That unspoken possibility. And still, it slipped away. Most men never understand why. Because attraction doesn't begin with clever words. It begins earlier, much earlier. It begins in your presence, in your stillness, in the way you carry your energy when you're near her. Not what you say, but how you exist in that space. And then there is touch. Touch is powerful. Not loud, not obvious, but deeply felt. It is the kind of language that doesn't need permission through words, only awareness, timing, and emotional intelligence. By the time you truly understand it, you stop overthinking every move. You stop second-guessing yourself. And something shifts inside you. Calm replaces tension. Clarity replaces confusion. But let's make one thing very clear. This is not about manipulation. This is not about pushing boundaries. This is not about pretending to be someone you're not. This is about awareness. Two people, one space, a quiet moment where energy speaks louder than conversation. And you simply respond without rushing, without forcing. Most men either move too fast or they freeze completely. Both come from the same place, uncertainty. But when you understand the psychology behind touch, you don't chase the moment. You recognize it. And when you recognize it, you move naturally with calm, grounded confidence. Now here's something many overlook. A mature woman doesn't respond to noise. She's lived enough to see through surface-level charm. She's experienced the talkers, the ones who try too hard, the ones who rush connection. What reaches her now is different. She feels drawn to a man who is steady, a man who knows how to hold space, a man who understands timing. There is a quiet strength in that, a balance between warmth and control, between closeness and restraint. And when touch comes from that place, it doesn't feel forced. It feels right. So ask yourself this. Have you ever felt deeply connected to someone without needing many words? If your answer is yes, then you've already experienced the beginning of what most men are still trying to figure out. Way number 1, the pause before touch. Everything that is real begins in silence. That's not just poetry, it's strategy. And when it comes to attraction, especially with a mature woman, silence and timing matter more than anything you say or do. Way number 1 is simple, but most men miss it completely. The pause before touch. Not the touch itself, the moment right before it. Picture this clearly. You're sitting next to her. Close, but not forced. Same couch. Same quiet space. Conversation slows down. Energy shifts. Your arm moves slightly toward her, then stops. That stop is not hesitation. That is awareness. That is control. That is where psychology tricks and female psychology begin to work in your favor. Because in that tiny pause, something powerful happens inside her mind. Anticipation, curiosity, emotional activation. You must understand this. People don't fall in love from what happens. They fall in love from what they feel is about to happen. That is how to fall in love works on a deeper level. It lives in the space between actions, not the actions themselves. Don't rush. Most men rush. They either go in too fast, killing the tension, or they freeze completely, killing the moment. Both lose. Be the man who can sit inside that pause without panicking. That is rare. That is attractive. That is control. When your hand moves slightly and then stops, you are sending a signal without words. I see you. I feel this. I'm choosing not to rush it. And a mature woman feels that instantly because her emotional awareness is sharper, deeper, more refined than younger women. She's not reacting to the touch. She's reacting to the intention behind it. That is female psychology at its core. She reads energy before action. She feels presence before words. So when you pause, you create a silent question in her mind. Is he going to touch me? And that question builds emotional tension. And tension, when done right, builds attraction. Don't underestimate this. That pause can be more powerful than the touch itself. Because once you touch, the mystery is gone. But before you touch, her imagination starts working for you. And imagination is where attraction grows strongest. That is one of the most effective psychology tricks you will ever learn. Let her feel the moment expanding. Let the silence stretch just enough to become noticeable, but not awkward. There's a difference. Awkward comes from insecurity. Silence comes from confidence. You must embody the second. Sit relaxed. Breathe slowly. Don't fidget. Don't overthink. Just be present. Because presence is what makes that pause feel intentional instead of uncertain. And here's where most men get it wrong. They think doing more creates attraction. No, doing less with awareness creates it faster. This is about precision, not effort. A small movement, a controlled stop, a calm presence. That combination speaks louder than any line you could ever say. And when she feels that, She begins to lean in emotionally before she ever leans in physically. That is how to fall in love starts quietly, almost invisibly. You're not chasing a reaction. You're creating an experience. And mature women value experiences over gestures. Anyone can touch. Very few know when not to. That's the difference. Don't touch just because you can. Touch because the moment has earned it. And before that moment arrives, respect the pause. Liven it. Let it do the work for you. Because when you master this, you're no longer guessing. You're leading without pressure. You're communicating without words. And you're allowing attraction to grow naturally instead of forcing it. That is the essence of real connection. Calm, patient, intentional. So next time you sit next to her, don't rush. Don't freeze. Move and then stop. Let the silence speak. Let the tension build. And watch how everything begins to shift without you saying a single word. Way number 2, incidental touch that feels unplanned. This is where subtlety becomes your greatest advantage. A light brush when shifting positions. Your fingers briefly meeting hers as you pass something across the table. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that calls attention to itself. That is the point. The moment should feel like it just happened, not like it was designed. Because the mind doesn't respond to force. It responds to what feels natural. And when something feels natural, it lowers resistance. It creates ease. It opens the door without knocking. Understand this clearly. The brain is always asking one silent question: is this safe? When your touch feels casual, unforced, almost accidental, the answer becomes yes. And once that door is open, attraction has room to grow. That is why a high-value man never rushes to make an impression. He allows moments to unfold. He trusts timing. He understands that masculine energy is not about pushing forward, but about holding steady and letting the moment come to him. But here is where most men lose the entire advantage. They repeat it too fast. One light touch happens, and then they chase it with another. And another. Don't do that. Don't rush. Don't stack moments on top of each other. That is where intention becomes visible. And when intention becomes heavy, it breaks the illusion of natural connection. What felt effortless now feels planned. What felt safe now feels uncertain. Instead, you must create one moment, then space. Let it breathe. Let it settle. Let her mind replay it without interruption. Because what lingers in silence often grows stronger than what is repeated out loud. A single, well-timed touch can stay with her longer than 10 forced ones. That is discipline. That is awareness. That is how a high-value man separates himself from the crowd. Think of it like this. Attraction is not built through constant action. It is built through contrast. Presence, then absence. Connection, then space. When you give her a moment and then step back, you allow her emotions to move towards you on their own. And that movement is powerful. Because when she leans in emotionally, even slightly, she begins to invest. And once she invests, she becomes more open, more engaged, more curious. Be calm. Be intentional without looking intentional. That is the balance. That is the art. Masculine energy is quiet, but it is felt. It does not need to announce itself. It shows up in timing and restraint, in knowing when to act and when to hold back. And when you master this, you don't just attract women, you create an experience they remember. Also understand something deeper. Mature women, especially, are highly sensitive to energy and authenticity. They have seen enough to recognize patterns. They can tell when something is forced. They can feel when a man is trying too hard. So don't try to impress. Don't try to create moments artificially. Let them happen. Guide them gently, but never push them. That is how you build trust without saying a word. And when that light, incidental touch happens, don't react to it. Don't look at her for validation. Don't pause awkwardly. Just continue as if nothing happened. That is what makes it powerful, because confidence is not in the act itself. It is in how little you need to explain it. A high-value man doesn't seek approval for his presence. He assumes it is welcome, but he never forces it. Remember this. To attract women, you don't need grand gestures. You need awareness. You need timing. You need restraint. The smallest moments done right carry the greatest weight. And when you learn to create those moments without pressure, without urgency, without neediness, you become unforgettable in a way most men never understand. So slow down. Pay attention. Let your actions feel like they belong to the moment, not to a plan. Because the more natural it feels, the deeper it lands. And in that quiet space between action and restraint, attraction begins to grow calmly, steadily, and powerfully. If you understand this, then act like it. Don't rush. Don't force. Let your presence do the work. One natural touch, then space. That's where attraction breathes and grows. Most men overdo it and lose the moment. You won't. You move with control. You move with calm precision. If this hits you, drop this in the comments right now. I create attraction through calm, not force. Like the video, subscribe for more sharp insight, and remember, the less you chase the moment, the more the moment stays with you. Way number 3, touch that grounds, not excites. Way number 3 is simple, but most men miss it completely. Touch that grounds, not excites. Understand this deeply. A mature woman is not looking for stimulation first. She is looking for safety, for calm, for emotional steadiness. That is the doorway. If you rush to create sparks, you lose her. If you create stillness, you draw her in. This is where old Stoic wisdom becomes powerful in modern relationships. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength is what she feels through you. Not your words, not your looks, your presence, your energy, your control, your iron mind. When your touch is slow, deliberate, and unhurried, it communicates something deeper than attraction. It says, I am not here to take. I am here to lead calmly. And that changes everything. A brief, gentle touch near her hand while you're talking. A moment of stillness instead of movement. No grabbing. No tension. No need to prove anything. That stillness is what most men fear because it feels like doing nothing. But it is not nothing. It is control. It is awareness. It is Stoicism when in action. And she feels it instantly because her nervous system is always scanning, always reading. She is not reacting to what you say. She is reacting to how you make her feel. And calm, grounded touch lowers her defenses without you saying a single word. It allows her to breathe differently around you. It allows her to stay longer without knowing why. This is not manipulation. This is alignment. Modern life is loud, fast, chaotic. Everyone is chasing stimulation, phones, notifications, endless noise. So when you become the one man who brings calm instead of pressure, you stand out without trying. You become rare. You become memorable. As Lao Tzu said, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. That is your model. Slow down. Don't rush the moment. Let the moment come to you. When your touch carries that same unhurried energy, it tells her you are not desperate for an outcome. And that is what builds trust. That is what builds attraction over time. Repeat this to yourself. Don't excite too early. Ground first. Don't rush. Slow down. Don't chase reactions. Create comfort. Because comfort is what opens the door to deeper connection. And deeper connection is what makes her choose to stay. Most men try to impress. You must learn to stabilize. Most men try to create tension. You must learn to create ease. That is the difference between temporary attention and lasting interest. In real life, this shows up in small moments. Sitting next to her without leaning in too quickly. Letting your presence fill the space instead of your words. Allowing a natural pause before any physical contact. And when you do touch, it is light, calm, and brief. Then you pull back. You don't linger. You don't force. You let her process it. You let her come closer if she chooses. This is leadership without pressure. This is masculine energy expressed through restraint, not action. And restraint is powerful because it shows you are in control of yourself. And self-control is attractive at every level. This is why old Stoic wisdom continues to guide modern men. Because attraction is not about tricks. It is about inner state. When your mind is steady, your actions become precise. When your energy is calm, your presence becomes magnetic. That is the iron mind you must build. Not for her, for yourself. Because when you are grounded, everything changes. Your voice slows down. Your movements become intentional. Your touch becomes meaningful. And she feels it without needing to analyze it. So remember this clearly. Don't try to excite her immediately. Ground her. Relax her. Give her a space where she feels safe to stay. And from that space, attraction grows naturally, effortlessly, quietly. This is how you win without forcing anything. This is Stoicism win in real life. Calm, controlled, unshakable. Way number 4. Withdrawing touch at the right moment. Way number 4 is where everything shifts, and most men miss it because they misunderstand what attraction really is. They think it's about doing more, staying longer, adding pressure, but it's not. It's about timing, precision, and emotional control. That is the real game. You touch briefly, naturally, without hesitation, and then you remove it first. Not because you're unsure, not because you're pulling away, but because you choose to. That is the difference. That single decision communicates something powerful without saying a word. I am comfortable. I am not chasing an outcome. I am in control of myself. And in the world of female psychology, that message carries weight. Don't linger too long. Don't wait for her reaction. Don't seek approval through contact. Be the one who ends the moment. That is what creates intrigue. Because now her mind starts working quietly, subtly, but deeply. Why did he stop? What was that? Was that intentional? And here's the truth about psychology tricks and how to fall in love. What is incomplete stays longer in the mind than what is finished. That is not manipulation. That is human nature. Unanswered moments create emotional tension, and emotional tension builds attraction. You must understand this clearly. Attraction grows in space, not in pressure. The pause after the touch matters more than the touch itself. The absence becomes louder than the presence. And this is where most men lose the opportunity. They overextend. They repeat too quickly. They try to confirm instead of allowing curiosity to develop. Don't do that. Let the moment breathe. Let her sit with it. Because when you withdraw first, you are not rejecting, you're creating room for her to come closer emotionally. That is how to fall in love in a natural, unforced way. Think about it like this. A great conversation doesn't need constant talking. It needs pauses, rhythm, and control. Touch works the same way. Be intentional. Be calm. Be unpredictable in a grounded way. That is what makes your presence memorable. In female psychology, certainty mixed with a hint of mystery is incredibly attractive. Not confusion, not inconsistency, but controlled restraint. You must become a man who is not driven by impulse, but guided by awareness. That is where psychology tricks become powerful, not because you are trying to influence, but because you understand human behavior deeply. And when you understand it, you stop overdoing things. You stop forcing moments. You stop chasing reactions. Instead, you create experiences. Small ones, subtle ones, but ones that stay. Because here's something most men never realize. It's not the intensity of the moment she remembers, it's how it made her feel afterward. And when you withdraw touch at the right moment, you leave behind a feeling that lingers. A question without an answer. A moment without closure. And that is what draws her back in. So remember this clearly, don't rush. Don't overcommit too early. Don't try to prove anything through physical contact. Be the man who knows when to step in and, more importantly, when to step back. That balance is rare. That balance is attractive. That balance is how to fall in love without ever forcing it. If this hit you, don't just watch, apply it. Like the video, subscribe for more sharp insights, and drop this in the comments right now to lock it into your mind. I create attraction through timing, not chasing. Way number 5, touch that matches the conversation. Way number 5, touch that matches the conversation is where most men either create real connection or quietly lose it without even realizing why. Listen carefully. Never touch during a shallow moment. Don't reach for physical contact when the conversation is empty, rushed, or surface level. That is where most mistakes happen. Touch without depth feels misplaced. It feels mechanical, and a mature woman senses that instantly. She doesn't respond to random gestures. She responds to alignment. So be intentional. Be present. You must understand this. Touch is not the beginning of connection, it is the reflection of it. Now here's the shift. Touch belongs in shared depth. It belongs in those moments when something real is happening between you, when she's opening up about something personal, when she's laughing in a way that's unguarded, not polite but genuine, when the room slows down and there's a quiet understanding between you without words needing to fill the space. That is where a simple, light touch becomes powerful, not because of pressure, not because of technique, but because of timing, because it matches the emotional frequency of the moment. Think about it like this. If your words and her emotions are in sync, your touch becomes an extension of that harmony. It doesn't interrupt. It completes. A light touch on her hand when she's sharing something meaningful says, I hear you. A brief touch on her arm when she laughs says, I'm here with you. It's subtle. It's respectful. But it's deeply felt. And this is where a high-value man separates himself. He doesn't chase moments. He recognizes them. He doesn't force connection. He allows it to unfold, and then he meets it with calm, grounded, masculine energy. And understand this clearly. When done right, that light touch becomes anchoring. Her mind doesn't just register the contact. It links it to the emotion she was feeling in that exact moment. Safety, warmth, ease, presence. You must see the bigger picture here. Attraction isn't built through isolated actions. It's built through associations. Her brain quietly connects how she feels with who she's with. So if she feels calm, open, and seen, and your touch appears in that moment, she begins to associate those feelings with you. That is how you attract women without forcing anything. That is how emotional connection becomes natural, not scripted. But don't rush this. Don't interrupt her when she's not there yet. Be patient. Be aware. A high-value man knows that timing is everything. He waits for the right emotional window. He listens more than he speaks. He observes more than he acts. And when the moment arrives, he doesn't hesitate, but he also doesn't overdo it. One touch, then space. Always leave room for her to feel, to process, to lean in if she chooses. That is confidence. That is controlled masculine energy. Let's go deeper. Many men think attraction is about doing more talking, more touching, more effort. That's wrong. Attraction is about doing the right thing at the right time. Nothing more. Nothing forced. When your touch aligns with her emotional state, it feels natural. It feels safe. And most importantly, it feels rare. Because very few men operate at that level of awareness. Most interrupt the moment. You must not. Be the man who enhances the moment. And here's something subtle but powerful. When you match your touch to the conversation, you're also communicating emotional intelligence without saying a word. You're showing that you can read the room, that you can feel her rhythm, that you're not just physically present, you're mentally and emotionally there too. That is deeply attractive. That is what draws a mature woman in. Not noise, not performance, but presence. Grounded, calm, and intentional. So remember this. Don't touch to create connection. Touch because connection already exists. Be patient enough to wait for depth. Be aware enough to recognize it. And be confident enough to act without overthinking when the moment is right. That is how a high-value man moves. That is how masculine energy feels, steady, controlled, and aligned. And that is how you truly attract women, not through effort, but through understanding. Way number 6. Respecting her space first. Way number 6. Respecting her space first, and understand this deeply, because most men get it wrong not by doing too little, but by doing too much, too soon, without awareness. This may sound counterintuitive, but restraint is power. Control is attraction. A man who can hold himself back is a man who stands out immediately. When she leans away, you don't follow. You don't close the gap. You don't rush to fix the distance. You stay grounded. If she shifts, you adjust calmly, without tension, without urgency. That silent response communicates something far more powerful than words ever could. I see you. I respect you. I am not here to take, I am here to understand. And that right there is where emotional connection begins. As the old Stoic wisdom teaches, he who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior. You are not trying to control her. You are mastering yourself. That is the difference. That is Stoicism when in action. In today's fast, reactive world where everyone is chasing attention, reacting instantly and pushing for results, the man who pauses, who observes, who allows space, he becomes rare. And rarity creates value. Remember this, attraction does not grow in pressure. It grows in space. Space allows curiosity. Space allows comfort. Space allows her to lean back in on her terms. And when she chooses to come closer, when she initiates that subtle shift toward you, that moment carries weight. That moment means something, because it was not taken. It was given. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Apply that here. You do not control her reactions. You control your presence. You control your pace. You control your energy. Be still. Be aware. Be disciplined. That is the iron mind. And women, especially mature women, feel that immediately. They have lived enough to recognize the difference between a man who needs validation and a man who is complete within himself. When you respect her space, you show emotional intelligence. You show patience. You show that you are not driven by impulse, but guided by intention. And that creates safety. Not boring safety, but grounded, attractive, masculine safety. Don't underestimate this. A light touch means nothing if it comes from need. But even the absence of touch becomes powerful when it comes from control. That is the paradox. That is the game most men never understand. They think more contact creates more connection. It doesn't. The right timing creates connection. The right restraint creates tension. The right awareness builds desire. So don't rush. Don't fill every silence. Don't chase every movement. Let her breathe. Let the moment expand. Let the space speak. Because in that space, she begins to feel you, not just physically, but emotionally. And once that happens, everything changes. This is not about techniques. This is about identity. You must become the man who is comfortable with stillness, with silence, with not forcing outcomes. That is Stoicism win. That is old Stoic wisdom applied to modern relationships. And when you live this way consistently, when your actions come from an iron mind, you stop seeking attraction and you start creating it naturally, effortlessly, without pressure. If you understand this, you're already separating yourself from the crowd because most men rush, but few have the discipline to hold back. Real attraction doesn't come from chasing. It comes from awareness, from knowing when to step back, when to give space, when to truly see her. That's what builds emotional connection. That's what makes your presence feel different. So if you're ready to move with intention and create deeper attraction, drop this in the comments right now. I respect her space, and that's why she feels me. Way number 7. Touch that invites, not takes. Way number 7. Touch that invites, not takes, and you must understand this at a deep level if you want to truly grasp real attraction, because most men get this completely wrong. They think connection is about moving closer, about initiating more, about leading physically without pause. Don't do that. That is pressure, even when it looks subtle. And pressure quietly kills desire. The real psychology tricks here are simple, but powerful. Never take space, always offer space. That is the rule. You sit down, you lean back slightly, you create an opening instead of closing distance. Your arm rests naturally along the back of the couch, not reaching, not grabbing, just there, available. Your body says, "You're welcome here," but never says, "Come here now." That difference is everything. This is where female psychology becomes crystal clear. Desire grows strongest when it feels self-directed, not influenced. If she moves closer, if she leans in, if her shoulder brushes yours, that moment belongs to her. She chose it. And choice is the foundation of desire. Always has been, always will be. You must respect that. You must build around that. Because when a woman feels like she is stepping into connection on her own terms, something changes internally. She relaxes, she opens, she trusts. And trust is the gateway to how to fall in love in a real, lasting way. Don't rush this. Don't interrupt it. Don't try to help the moment along. Be still. Be present. Let the space do the work. That is what a grounded man understands. That is what separates surface-level attraction from something deeper. And here's where most fail. They panic in silence. They think if nothing is happening, something is wrong. So they reach. They adjust. They try to create a reaction. Don't. Silence is not absence. Space is not rejection. It is an invitation waiting to be accepted. You must trust the process. You must trust your presence. Because when your energy is calm, when your posture is open but not needy, when your touch is offered but never imposed, you communicate something far more powerful than words. You communicate safety. And safety is what allows attraction to grow without resistance. This is one of the most overlooked psychology tricks, yet it sits at the core of female psychology. A woman does not fall for the man who pushes the moment forward. She is drawn to the man who holds the moment steady and lets her step into it. That is how to fall in love in a way that feels natural, not forced. So be intentional. Sit with quiet confidence. Create space and leave it untouched. Let her decide. Let her move. Let her feel that she is not being guided, but choosing freely. Because the moment she feels ownership over that connection, it becomes real to her. It becomes something she invests in. And what people invest in, they value. What they value, they protect. And what they protect, they grow. That is the deeper game. That is the quiet power behind attraction. So don't chase closeness, invite it. Don't reach for her, create a space she wants to enter. That is how you shift from trying to attract to naturally being chosen. Way number 8, slow movement around her. Most men rush without realizing it, and that is exactly where they lose the deeper game. Fast movements create tension. They signal impatience, uncertainty, even a subtle need to prove something. Don't move like you're trying to impress. Don't move like you're chasing a result. Be deliberate. Be grounded. Slow movements signal control. That is what a high-value man understands. Presence is not loud, it is steady. When you adjust your position slowly, when you stand up without urgency, when your hands move with calm intention, you are telling her something without speaking. I am in control of myself. And that message lands deeper than any clever words ever could. This is not about acting slow in an exaggerated way. That would feel unnatural. That would break the spell. This is about removing unnecessary speed. Let your body reflect a calm mind. When you reach for a glass, do it smoothly. When you turn toward her, do it with ease. When you gesture, keep it measured. That is how masculine energy expresses itself, not through force, but through quiet certainty. A man who moves slowly is a man who is not rushed by fear, not driven by approval, not controlled by the moment. And that is deeply attractive. Now here is where it becomes even more powerful. Her body begins to respond. Not consciously at first, but instinctively. This is what psychologists call nervous system mirroring. When you remain calm, her body starts to match that rhythm. Her breathing softens. Her posture relaxes. Her guard lowers without her even realizing why. You are not forcing connection. You are creating the conditions for it to happen naturally. That is the difference. Don't try to make her feel something. Be the environment where she can feel it on her own. Think about it. In a world full of noise, speed, and pressure, calm becomes rare. And what is rare becomes valuable. That is why a high-value man does not compete with chaos. He stands apart from it. He slows down when others rush. He listens when others interrupt. He pauses when others react. That contrast is magnetic. It draws people in without effort. It allows you to attract women not through tricks, but through presence. But here's the mistake many men make. They hear this and think it's just about physical movement. It's not. It's about internal pace. If your mind is racing, your body will betray you. If you're anxious, it will show in the smallest gestures. So you must train yourself. Slow your thoughts. Breathe deeper. Stay aware. That is the foundation. Because true masculine energy is not something you perform, it's something you embody. There's a quiet power in restraint. When you don't rush to fill silence. When you don't rush to touch. When you don't rush to prove yourself. That space you create, it allows anticipation to grow. It allows her curiosity to build. It allows connection to deepen without pressure. As the old saying goes, still waters run deep. And depth is what people crave, even if they don't always know how to ask for it. So don't underestimate this. Slow movement is not a small detail. It is a signal. It communicates confidence, control, and emotional stability all at once. It tells her she is safe to relax, safe to open, safe to be present. And when a woman feels that, she leans in, not because you chased her, but because she feels drawn. You must practice this intentionally. Walk slower. Speak with pauses. Move your hands with purpose. Let your presence fill the space instead of your actions trying to compensate. This is how a high-value man operates. This is how you naturally attract women without forcing attraction. This is how masculine energy becomes something she can feel, not just observe. In the end, remember this. Speed creates noise, but slowness creates meaning. And if you want to be remembered, if you want to stand out, if you want to build real connection, then don't rush the moment. Own it. Slow it down. Let her feel you before you ever try to impress her. That is where the real shift happens. If this resonated with you, don't just watch, apply it. Slow down. Be intentional. That's where real connection begins. Like the video, subscribe for more powerful insights, and share this with someone who needs it. Now drop this in the comments to lock it in. I move with calm control, and connection follows me naturally. Way number 9, knowing when not to touch. Way number 9, knowing when not to touch. This is where real mastery begins, and very few men ever reach it because it requires something deeper than technique. It requires control. It requires presence. It requires what old Stoic wisdom has taught for centuries. Power is not in action. It is in restraint. You must understand this clearly. Sometimes the strongest move you can make is no move at all, especially when the moment feels charged, emotional, almost magnetic. Because in that exact moment, when everything inside you wants to act, to reach, to close the gap, you choose stillness. And that stillness speaks louder than any touch ever could. It says, without words, I am in control. I am not driven by impulse. I choose, I do not chase. And that level of composure is rare. It is magnetic. It is unforgettable. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. And this is exactly what separates the average man from the one who carries an iron mind. Because the average man reacts, he rushes, he fills silence with movement, he confuses action with value. But a man grounded in Stoicism understands that attraction does not grow in noise. It grows in tension, in space, in anticipation, in the quiet moments where nothing happens, but everything is felt. Look around modern life. Everything is fast, messages are instant, attention is short. People are constantly reaching, constantly proving, constantly seeking validation. And because of that, restraint has become rare. And rarity creates value. So when you step back instead of forward, when you pause instead of acting, when you allow the moment to breathe instead of forcing it, you immediately stand out. You create a different emotional experience, one that feels calm, grounded, and safe. Do not underestimate this. Women, especially mature women, are highly attuned to emotional energy. They feel the difference between a man who is trying to get something and a man who is simply present. And when you hold back at the right moment, you communicate confidence at the highest level because you are showing that you are not dependent on the outcome, you are not controlled by desire, you are not trying to rush the process, you are allowing it to unfold naturally. And that is where attraction deepens, not in what you do, but in what you choose not to do. Remember this clearly: men who rush lose power. Men who doubt lose presence. Men who overthink lose connection. But men who remain still, who stay grounded, who trust the moment, they win without effort. They attract without chasing. They create curiosity without saying a word. This is why old Stoic wisdom emphasizes discipline over impulse. Because discipline creates consistency, and consistency builds trust, and trust builds attraction. You must train yourself to be comfortable in that silence, in that pause, in that space where nothing is happening externally, but everything is aligning internally. Because that is where your iron mind is tested. That is where your strength is revealed, not when things are easy, but when tension rises and you remain calm, when the urge to act appears and you choose restraint. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And in this context, mastery of yourself means you are not controlled by the need to touch, to impress, to escalate. You are grounded. You are centered. You are enough as you are in that moment. And here is the truth most men never hear. Attraction is not built through constant action. It is built through emotional contrast, through moments of presence followed by space, through engagement followed by withdrawal, through connection that is felt, not forced. So when the moment feels intense, do not rush to fill it. Do not break it with unnecessary movement. Do not interrupt the energy that is building. Instead, hold it. Let it expand. Let her feel it. Let her lean into it. Because when you do that, you create something far more powerful than touch. You create anticipation. And anticipation is the seed of desire. This is Stoicism when in action. This is old Stoic wisdom applied to modern relationships. This is how a man develops an iron mind that does not chase validation but naturally attracts it. So remember, do not rush, do not doubt, do not overthink. Be still, be grounded, be in control. Because in that stillness, in that quiet confidence, you become unforgettable, not because of what you did, but because of what you chose not to do. All right, my friend, we're going to close this out the right way. Simple, clear, and strong. Listen, everything you've just learned comes down to one truth. Touch is not about doing more. It's about doing it right. Slow, calm, intentional. You don't rush it. You don't force it. You allow it. Because the moment you stay grounded, when you move with control and awareness, she feels it. She feels safe. She feels understood. And that's where real connection begins. So next time, don't try to impress, be present. Slow down. Pause before you act. Let the moment breathe. That's how you stand out without saying a word. If this helped you, stay with me, because the next video will show you how to build this presence naturally, so it becomes who you are, not just something you try to do. I'll see you there. Why she crosses her legs around you. Most men ignore this, but it means a lot. Psychology tricks. You've noticed it before, but you never truly understood it. She's sitting across from you, relaxed, present, and then, almost casually, she crosses her legs. And something in the air changes. You feel it, but you can't explain it. There's a quiet tension, a subtle shift that most men overlook, dismissing it as nothing more than comfort or habit. But here's the truth. Very little in human behavior is random, especially not when it comes to attraction. As Annemiese Nin once said, we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. And most men see this moment too simply, missing the deeper emotional language unfolding right in front of them. That single movement can carry layers of meaning. It can signal interest or hesitation. It can reflect confidence or self-protection. It can reveal curiosity, emotional conflict, or even a silent invitation to engage more deeply. And the most important part? The timing, the context, and the energy between you decide what it truly means. This is where awareness separates the average man from the perceptive one. Welcome back to a space where you learn to read what isn't said, where you begin to understand attraction beyond words, and where subtle signals become powerful insights. If you want to truly understand women, not just what they say, but what they show without realizing, then you're in the right place. Because once you learn to see these quiet cues, you don't just observe differently. You connect differently. 1. Timing is everything. Timing is everything, and if you miss that, you miss the entire message. Now listen carefully. When a woman crosses her legs, most men focus on what is easy. They notice the shape. They notice the movement. They notice the visual. But they ignore the only thing that actually matters. Why that exact moment? That is where the truth lives. Not in the action itself, but in the timing behind it. Did she cross her legs the second you sat down, as if creating distance before a word was spoken? Did she do it right after you leaned in, as if her body needed a boundary before her mind could catch up? Or did it happen when the conversation turned deeper, more personal, more real? That is not random. That is female psychology speaking without permission from logic. You must understand this. The body answers faster than the mind can explain. And if you want to master psychology tricks and truly understand how to fall in love in a grounded, intelligent way, you cannot ignore these silent responses. A crossed leg is not just posture. It is emotional positioning. It is a reaction. Sometimes it is protection, her way of creating a small shield when something feels uncertain. Don't ignore that. Be aware. Sometimes it is curiosity, her body settling into a position that says, I'm interested, but I'm still deciding. That is subtle, but powerful. And sometimes it is tension, the kind that lives between attraction and hesitation, where she feels something but is not ready to show it openly. That is where most men fail. They either assume too much or understand nothing at all. Don't be that man. Be the one who observes without rushing to conclusions. That is real emotional intelligence. That is how psychology tricks become wisdom instead of manipulation. And here is the deeper truth. Attraction is rarely clean and simple. It is often mixed. A woman can feel drawn to you and still protect herself at the same time. She can be curious and cautious in the same breath. That is why timing matters more than the action itself. When she crosses her legs right after you say something meaningful, her body is processing. When she does it as you move closer, her body is negotiating space. When it happens during silence, her body is speaking what words are not ready to say. This is female psychology in its raw, unfiltered form. And if you truly want to understand how to fall in love in a way that is strong, calm, and grounded, you must learn to read these moments without forcing them into your own assumptions. Don't chase signals. Understand them. Don't react emotionally. Stay centered. Be present. Because the man who wins is not the one who sees the most, but the one who understands the most. And understanding comes from patience, not impulse. Psychology tricks are not about control, they're about clarity. They help you see what is already there, not create something that isn't. So when you notice that small movement, that simple crossing of her legs, don't rush. Pause. Think. Ask yourself, why now? Because in that quiet question, you will begin to see what most men never do, and that is exactly where your advantage begins. 2. Emotional processing, not rejection. Think about this carefully. You're in a moment that feels smooth, almost effortless. You're talking, she's relaxed, her body open, her energy soft. Then you say something real, something personal, something that carries weight, and suddenly, she crosses her legs. Most men miss this. Or worse, they misunderstand it. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't label it as rejection. That is the mistake that separates an average man from a high-value man. Because what you're seeing is not distance. It is processing. Her body just reacted before her words could catch up. That is her nervous system doing its job. Not rejecting you. Not inviting you. Processing you. In that brief shift, her mind is asking silent questions. Do I feel safe here? Do I feel seen for who I am? Do I feel something deeper than I expected? And here's the truth. When emotions rise, the body responds. Always. A man who understands this doesn't panic. He stays grounded. He holds his masculine energy steady. That is how you attract women without chasing, without forcing, without breaking the moment. Most men fail right here. They overthink. They retreat. Or they try to fix something that isn't broken. She's closing off. She's not interested. I messed up. No. Stop. Be calm. Be present. That is strength. Because psychology is deeper than surface reactions. Sometimes, when a woman crosses her legs, she is not shutting you out. She is containing what just opened inside her. That is a completely different meaning. Understand this. Attraction is not always loud and obvious. Sometimes it is quiet, internal, even confusing. Attraction creates vulnerability. And vulnerability triggers self-protection. So her legs cross like a gate, but not to block you, to hold herself together, to manage the feeling you just stirred. If you misread that moment, you lose her. If you respect that moment, you deepen the connection. This is where a high-value man separates himself. He doesn't rush to fill the silence. He doesn't demand reassurance. He doesn't break the emotional rhythm. He allows space. He understands that tension is not the enemy, it is often the beginning of something real. Be the man who can sit in that tension without needing control. That is masculine energy in its most attractive form. And here's the quiet truth most men never learn. A woman who feels nothing stays open and casual. A woman who feels something adjusts. She shifts. She protects. She processes. So don't fear the change. Read it. Respect it. Stay steady. Because when you do, you show her something rare, a man who doesn't react emotionally, but understands emotion. You must remember this. Don't chase clarity too soon. Don't interrupt her inner world. Let her come back to you. Because if she feels safe in that moment, if she feels seen without pressure, she will open again. And this time, deeper. This is how you attract women without gains. This is how a high-value man moves through connection, with awareness, patience, and quiet confidence. And if you understand this, if you've ever misread her silence and pulled away too soon, drop a comment right now. I stay calm and let her feel. Like this video, subscribe for more sharp psychological insight, and remember, not every pause is rejection. Sometimes, it's the moment attraction is quietly growing. 3. Direction reveals intention. Direction reveals intention. Never forget that. A woman's body rarely lies, even when her words are measured, polite, or uncertain. When she crosses her legs toward you, knee pointing in your direction, foot angled toward you, torso still open, this is not withdrawal. This is not distance. This is tension. Controlled tension. The kind that comes from awareness, from curiosity, from something inside her that hasn't settled yet. Like a wire pulled tight, her body is organizing itself around a feeling she may not fully understand. And you must understand this clearly. Interest creates structure, desire creates focus, and emotional awareness creates alignment. That is old Stoic wisdom in motion. Observe what is, not what is said. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. A high-value man with an iron mind does not rush to label the moment. He reads it. He holds it. He respects it. Because when her body angles toward you, something inside her is leaning in, even if her mind is still deciding. Do not interrupt that process. Do not break the tension. Most men panic here. They talk too much. They push too fast. They try to figure it out instead of allowing it to unfold. Don't do that. Be still. Be present. That is Stoicism win. That is control. Because what you are witnessing is not a decision. It is a shift. A subtle shift, but a powerful one. Her body reacted before her thoughts could catch up. And that is where truth lives. Not in rehearsed words, but in unconscious movement. You must train yourself to see it, to feel it, to understand it without needing validation. That is what builds an iron mind. That is what separates a reactive man from a grounded one. And here is the deeper layer most men miss. This tension is not just about attraction. It is about internal conflict. Part of her is open. Part of her is cautious. Part of her is curious. Part of her is protecting something. And instead of pulling away, she holds her position, facing you, angled toward you, structured but not closed. That means she is still there, still engaged, still considering you. And that is your moment, not to act, but to remain composed. As Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Be the man who does not chase clarity. Be the man who creates calm. Because calm is attractive. Calm is rare. Calm is power. In modern life, where everything moves fast, messages, attention, expectations, this ability to slow down and read presence is a lost skill. But it is a powerful one. When you stop reacting and start observing, everything changes. You stop guessing. You stop forcing. You stop making it about validation. And you start seeing people as they are, not as you fear or hope them to be. That is old Stoic wisdom applied to relationships. That is Stoicism when in real life. So remember this. When she crosses her legs toward you, she is not closing off. She is organizing emotion. When her body aligns with you, something inside her is aligning too. Maybe slowly, maybe uncertainly, but it is happening. And your job is simple. Do not rush it. Do not question it. Do not break it. Hold your frame. Stay grounded. Let the moment breathe. Because a man with an iron mind understands this truth, attraction grows in space, not pressure. And the one who controls himself controls the outcome. 4. Bodies speak louder than words. Bodies speak louder than words, always, and that is exactly why men who only listen to what is said stay stuck in confusion, while the man who understands female psychology moves with quiet certainty, because words are filtered, polished, controlled. But the body tells the truth in real time, without permission, without rehearsal, without strategy, and that is where real connection lives. A woman can look you in the eye and say, "I'm fine," yet her legs tighten, cross, shift, revealing that something inside her has changed, something has been felt, something has been triggered, and if you miss that, you miss everything. Don't be the man who hears the sentence but ignores the signal. Don't reduce attraction to surface level thinking. Be the man who pauses and asks, what just happened in that moment? Because that is where the power is. That is where real psychology tricks begin to work in your favor. Understand this clearly. Her body is not reacting to the chair, not reacting to comfort, not reacting to random habit. Her body is reacting to you, to your tone, your presence, your timing, your energy. That is female psychology in motion, subtle but precise. Maybe it was your eye contact that held just a second longer. Maybe it was your silence that made her aware of herself. Maybe it was your question that touched something deeper than she expected. Whatever it was, her body responded before her mind could explain it, and that is your clue. Most men look at crossed legs and think visually. They see posture, they see movement. But they fail to read emotion, they fail to read meaning, and because of that, they stay disconnected, guessing, overthinking, trying harder instead of understanding better. Don't do that. Don't chase clarity through words alone. Be calm, observe. Connect the moment before and after, because that is how you begin to understand how to fall in love not just as a feeling, but as a process, as a sequence of emotional reactions that unfold in silence. A woman doesn't fall for words alone. She responds to how you make her feel in the space between words, and her body will always reveal whether that feeling is growing or pulling back. This is why mastering these small signals is not manipulation. It is awareness, it is presence, it is respect. For the unspoken language that drives attraction, repeat this to yourself. Don't ignore the shift. Don't rush to fix. Don't assume rejection. Be steady, be observant, be grounded, because when you understand these signals, you stop reacting emotionally and start responding intelligently. That is when you begin to stand out. That is when your presence becomes felt, not forced, and if you truly want to master attraction. If you want to understand psychology tricks and female psychology at a deeper level, then train yourself to notice what most men overlook, because in those quiet, subtle movements lies the truth about connection, desire, and how to fall in love in a way that is real, grounded, and impossible to fake. If this opened your eyes, don't scroll past it, use it. Start paying attention. Start reading what's not being said. Like the video, subscribe for more sharp insight, and drop this in the comments to lock it in your mind. I watch what changes, not just what she says. 5. Conflict is where attraction hides. Conflict is where most men lose their footing, but it is also where attraction quietly begins to breathe. And here's the uncomfortable truth you cannot afford to ignore. When she crosses her legs the moment the conversation deepens, something inside her has shifted. That is not random. That is not habit. That is a response, a signal, a pause in her emotional world where she is feeling something real, but hasn't decided what to do with it yet. not rejection, not acceptance, conflict. And conflict is where attraction hides. Most men misread this moment because they crave clarity. They want a yes or a no, an open door or a closed one. But attraction does not work like that. It lives in the gray area. It grows in uncertainty. Safe boredom never creates crossed legs. Emotion does. Interest does. Awareness does. When a woman feels nothing, her body stays neutral, relaxed, predictable. But when something inside her gets activated, curiosity, tension, intrigue, her body adjusts. She shifts. She protects. She processes. That is the moment you must understand, not fear. Don't rush to fill the silence. Don't panic and start over-explaining yourself. That is where most men break the tension and lose the opportunity. Be calm. Be steady. Be the man who understands that emotional movement is not danger, it is engagement. A high-value man does not react to every small shift. He observes. He allows space. He trusts the process. Because he knows that when a woman is internally conflicted, she is not pulling away, she is leaning in carefully. Think about it. If she felt nothing, there would be no reaction, no shift, no crossed legs, just polite conversation and emotional distance. But here, something landed. Something you said made her think, made her feel, made her check herself. That is powerful. That is where masculine energy matters. Not loud, not forceful, quiet, grounded, controlled. You must hold that space without trying to control it. This is where many men fail to attract women. They chase certainty instead of understanding emotion. They try to fix the moment instead of reading it. Don't do that. That is the fastest way to turn curiosity into discomfort. Instead, slow down. Let her process. Let her feel. Let her come back toward you on her own terms. That is strength. That is confidence. That is how a high-value man operates. Remember this. Attraction is not built in comfort alone. It is built in moments where something slightly unsettles her in a good way, where she feels seen but not overwhelmed, where she feels something new but still safe enough to explore it. That tension, that internal question she's asking herself, that is where you exist in her mind. And that is where attraction grows quietly, without announcement. Be the man who understands that not all distance is rejection. Sometimes it is reflection. Not all closed body language means disinterest. Sometimes it means she is thinking more deeply than before. That is your moment. Don't break it. Don't fear it. Use it. Stay present. Stay composed. Stay grounded in your masculine energy. Because the man who can remain calm in emotional uncertainty is the man who naturally begins to attract women without forcing anything at all. 6. Tension is not the enemy. Tension is not the enemy, misinterpretation is the enemy, and the moment you truly understand this, everything changes. You stop misreading women, you stop guessing blindly, you stop reacting like a man without direction. And instead you begin to observe with clarity, with patience, with what old Stoic wisdom would call an iron mind, because when she crosses her legs and still faces you, still holds eye contact, still listens without pulling away, that is not rejection. That is presence. That is engagement under pressure. That is emotion being processed in real time. And as Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And this is exactly where most men fail. They try to control the moment instead of mastering themselves. They talk more. They rush to fill silence. They try to impress. They try to escape the tension. But a man grounded in Stoicism understands this. Silence is not awkward, tension is not danger, and stillness is not disinterest. It is depth, it is emotion being held. It is a moment that demands composure, not noise. You must not break it. You must not rush it. You must stand firm in it. Because the way she crosses her legs is not random. It is communication without words. It is her body deciding whether she feels safe, whether she feels something meaningful, whether she is intrigued or cautious. And those are two very different energies. Don't confuse them. Don't collapse them into one assumption. Because if she were truly disengaged, she would turn away, she would withdraw fully. But if she stays facing you, even with her legs crossed, she is still there, still invested, still feeling something that hasn't yet been spoken. And here is where modern life has weakened many men: constant stimulation, constant noise, constant need for validation. But attraction does not grow in noise. It grows in controlled tension, in emotional space, in the quiet confidence of a man who does not panic when things become uncertain. As Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters, and your reaction in that moment defines everything. Do you become restless, or do you become grounded? Do you chase, or do you attract? Do you speak to fill space, or do you allow space to build connection? This is where an iron mind separates itself from the average man. This is where Stoicism win becomes practical, not theoretical. You must train yourself to recognize that tension is simply emotion waiting to be understood, not something to be fixed or avoided. Hold your posture, slow your speech. Stay present. Let her come toward you emotionally rather than chasing her physically or verbally. Because when you stop fearing tension, you start mastering it, and when you master it, you become the man who is not shaken by uncertainty. The man who reads energy instead of reacting to it. The man who understands that attraction is not built by doing more, but by being more calm, more aware, more in control. That is old Stoic wisdom applied to modern relationships. That is the foundation of Stoicism win, and that is how you build an iron mind that does not crumble in the presence of emotional complexity, but rises above it with quiet, undeniable strength. If you understand this, you're already separating yourself from the majority of men who panic and destroy the moment. Stay calm. Read the energy. Respect the tension instead of rushing to escape it. That's how you build real presence. That's how you stop chasing and start attracting. Now take ownership of that mindset. Drop this in the comments. I don't break tension, I master it. 7. Speed and direction tell the truth. Speed and direction tell the truth, and if you want to understand what is really happening in front of you, you must stop looking at the obvious and start reading the subtle signals, because this is where psychology tricks and real female psychology begin to reveal themselves. Don't just notice that she crosses her legs. Watch how it happens. Watch the timing, the intention, the energy behind it, because speed is emotion made visible, and emotion never lies even when words do. If she crosses her legs quickly, sharply, almost like a reflex, don't dismiss it. Don't assume comfort. Don't label it as disinterest, because that sudden movement is her nervous system reacting to something you just created, something you said, something she felt, and in that moment her body is not rejecting you. It is containing something, holding something in, processing something that caught her off guard. And this is where most men fail, because they misread intensity as distance, when in reality, it is often the beginning of emotional engagement, the exact moment where attraction quietly starts to build. Now slow down and observe the difference, because a slow leg cross carries a completely different message. It shows awareness, control, and presence. It means she knows exactly what she is doing. She is not reacting. She is choosing. She is organizing herself in your presence, settling deeper into the moment instead of pulling away from it. And when that slow movement is paired with eye contact, you must understand this clearly. That is not rejection. That is emotional control. That is a woman feeling something and deciding to stay grounded instead of letting it overwhelm her. And if you are learning how to fall in love or how attraction develops in real life, this is one of those quiet but powerful signals you cannot afford to ignore. Now pay even closer attention to direction, because direction reveals intention, and intention is everything in female psychology. If her knee points away from you and her torso follows, turning slightly out, that is retreat, that is distance. That is her creating space, and you must respect it. Don't chase, don't push. Don't try to force connection where it is not being invited, because true confidence understands when to step back. But if her knee points toward you while her shoulders remain open, that is a completely different story. That is tension, not closure. That is her protecting herself while still staying engaged, still facing you, still present in the interaction. And this is where attraction lives, in that space between curiosity and caution, between interest and restraint. Don't rush it, don't break it, don't misinterpret it, because this is exactly how to fall in love in a real, grounded way, not through words alone, but through understanding the language of the body. The silent dialogue that reveals more than anything she could ever say. Be the man who observes, not reacts, the man who understands psychology tricks without abusing them, the man who respects female psychology instead of fighting it. Because when you learn to read these signals correctly, you stop guessing, you stop overthinking, and you start moving with calm certainty, and that is where real connection begins. 8. Uncrossing reveals the shift. Uncrossing reveals the shift, and if you truly understand this moment, you begin to operate on a level most men never reach, because they are busy chasing words while missing the quiet truth unfolding right in front of them. Listen carefully. When she crosses her legs, her body is organizing itself, containing energy, creating a boundary. But when she uncrosses them, that boundary softens, that tension releases, and that is never random. That is always a response to you. Now here's where it gets deeper. If she uncrosses her legs right after you stop talking, don't rush to speak again. Don't try to impress. Don't break the moment. Be still, because your silence just did something most men are afraid of. It created comfort. It removed pressure. It allowed her to breathe, and in that space, she chose to open back up. That is masculine energy, quiet, controlled, intentional. A high-value man understands that silence is not awkward. It is powerful. It is an invitation. It is where real connection begins to form without force. If she uncrosses after you change the topic, recognize the signal immediately. The emotional weight you are creating has lifted, and her body is saying, "This feels easier now, so don't go back and reopen intensity too quickly." Don't drag her back into pressure. Be aware, adjust, flow with the moment, because a man who can attract women knows when to go deep and when to let things stay light. That is not guesswork, that is awareness. And if she uncrosses after you look away, understand the subtle truth in that shift. Your presence, your gaze, your intensity may have been too concentrated, not wrong, but strong. And when you softened it, her body responded. That is your lesson. Not to withdraw, but to calibrate, to control your energy instead of letting it spill unchecked. You must be precise. You must be intentional. That is what separates a high-value man from the rest. Most men either overwhelm or disappear. They don't balance. They don't regulate. They don't notice. But you must, because her body is constantly negotiating with you, second by second, adjusting distance, adjusting comfort, adjusting emotional safety, without saying a single word. And here is where most men fail. They react emotionally instead of observing calmly. Don't do that. Don't assume she's losing interest. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't start chasing validation. Be grounded. Be steady. Be the man who watches before he acts. Because when you truly understand these micro shifts, you stop playing guessing games, you stop overthinking every word, and you start reading the reality of the moment as it actually is. That is how you attract women without forcing anything. That is how masculine energy becomes felt instead of performed. And here's the deeper truth. You are not trying to control her reaction. You are learning to understand it, to move with it, to respect the silent language that reveals what words often hide. So when she uncrosses her legs, don't ignore it. Don't dismiss it as meaningless. See it for what it is. Feedback, openness, adjustment. And your role is simple but powerful. Protect that moment. Don't rush. Don't disrupt. Don't overanalyze. Stay present. Stay aware. Stay composed. Because attraction is not built in loud, dramatic actions, it is built in these quiet shifts, these almost invisible moments that only a man with true awareness and grounded masculine energy can recognize and respond to. And when you learn to see this, truly see it, everything changes. You stop chasing, you stop guessing, and you start leading the moment with calm certainty, the way a high-value man always does. If this opened your eyes, don't keep it to yourself. Like the video, subscribe for more sharp insights, and share it with someone who still misses these silent signals. Most men talk too much. Few learn to read what isn't said. Be one of the few. Now comment this to lock it in your mind. I understand her silence, and I stay calm in the shift. 9. Contained interest is still interest. Contained interest is still interest, and if you fail to recognize that, you will misread some of the most important moments of connection in your life. Slow down and picture it with precision. She crosses her legs, but not abruptly, not as a shield. She does it slowly, deliberately, with control. Her knee angles toward you, not away. Her gaze does not break, it holds steady. Her body does not withdraw. It settles into the moment. That is not rejection. That is not discomfort. That is interest under discipline. That is emotion contained, not removed. And here is where most men lose the advantage. They are trained to look for loud signals, obvious signs, exaggerated reactions. But attraction, especially from a composed woman, rarely operates that way. It is quiet. It is measured. It is intentional. As old Stoic wisdom reminds us, still waters run deep. What is calm is not empty, it is controlled. What is controlled is often more powerful than what is obvious. You must train yourself to see this. You must build an iron mind that does not react to surface-level appearances, but reads deeper patterns with clarity and patience. Do not rush to conclusions. Do not label her behavior too quickly. Do not interrupt the moment just because it becomes subtle. Stay grounded. Stay observant. Stay present. Because presence is the real signal. Presence is the real signal. Presence is the real signal. A woman who is not interested removes herself, physically, emotionally, mentally. She looks away. She disengages. She distances her body. But here, she does the opposite. She stays. She looks. She angles toward you, even in stillness. That is a choice. That is investment. That is contained interest. And if you panic in that moment, if you overtalk, overanalyze, or try to force clarity, you break the very tension that was working in your favor. As Marcus Aurelius taught, you have power over your mind, not outside events. You cannot control her signals, but you can master how you respond to them. That is where Stoicism win becomes real, not as a concept, but as a lived advantage. In today's fast-paced world, where attention is scattered and interactions are rushed, a woman who remains composed and present is offering something rare, focused engagement. And that demands a higher level of response from you. You must match her calm. You must respect the silence. You must allow the moment to breathe instead of suffocating it with unnecessary action. Do not chase the moment, hold it. Do not rush the energy, stabilize it. Do not seek validation, embody certainty. This is the discipline of an iron mind. This is how you separate yourself from men who react emotionally and position yourself among those who move with intention. Repeat this again until it becomes instinct. What is contained is not absent. What is contained is not absent. What is contained is not absent. That slight crossing of her legs, that steady eye contact, that aligned posture, it all speaks. And it speaks clearly to the man who knows how to listen without words. Old Stoic wisdom teaches that mastery is not about controlling others, but about controlling yourself in the presence of uncertainty. And this is your test. Can you remain composed when things are unclear? Can you stay confident when signals are subtle? Can you trust the moment without forcing it? Because the man who can do that wins. Quietly, consistently, without struggle. That is Stoicism win. That is how you build presence that attracts without effort, confidence that does not need validation, and awareness that sees what others overlook. And once you reach that level, you no longer chase clarity. Clarity comes to you. 10. Structure means something is felt. Structure always tells the truth, even when words try to stay neutral, and this is where most men fail to see what is right in front of them. They wait for clear signals, obvious interest, direct validation, but attraction does not always move in open ways. It often becomes more controlled the stronger it gets, and that is why you must understand this deeply. Women don't close their bodies around men they feel nothing for. They simply don't bother, because indifference is loose, it is relaxed. It is unstructured. It has no reason to adjust, no reason to respond, no reason to organize itself. Boredom looks empty. It looks disengaged. It looks like someone who could leave at any moment without thinking twice. But tension, real emotional tension, looks completely different. It creates form, it creates awareness, it creates structure, and one of the most overlooked psychology tricks rooted in female psychology is leg crossing, because it is not random, it is not meaningless, it is the body responding to something it cannot ignore. Understand this clearly. Leg crossing is emotional architecture. It is the body saying, I feel something and I need to manage it, not because the feeling is absent, but because the feeling is present enough to require control, and that is a powerful distinction that most men completely misunderstand when trying to figure out how to fall in love or how attraction actually builds. Don't misread control as rejection. Don't assume structure means distance. Don't rush to break the moment just because it becomes quieter or more contained, because that containment is often where the real emotion lives. Be calm, be observant, be patient. Because a high-value man does not react to surface-level interpretations, he reads deeper patterns. He understands that female psychology operates in layers, and these subtle psychology tricks are signals of internal shifts, not external decisions. When she crosses her legs, she is not necessarily closing you out. She is organizing her energy. She is becoming more aware of your presence, and that awareness matters, because people do not adjust their bodies for things they do not care about. That is why you must stay grounded in that moment. Don't overtalk. Don't force connection. Don't try to prove anything, because when you rush, you break the very structure that is forming, and structure is where attraction stabilizes. Understand this, because knowing how to fall in love is not about chasing intensity. It is about recognizing and respecting these quiet moments of control, these subtle shifts where emotion becomes real enough to shape behavior. Most men miss this because they are trained to look for big signs, loud signals, clear confirmation, but real connection is often quiet, it is controlled, it is structured, and if you can see that, if you can stay steady instead of reacting, you immediately separate yourself from the majority. Be the man who understands that tension is not a problem to fix, it is a signal to read, it is a moment to hold, it is proof that something meaningful is happening beneath the surface. And here is the truth you must carry with you: indifference is effortless. But emotion requires management. Emotion requires awareness. Emotion requires structure. And when you start recognizing these psychology tricks through the lens of female psychology, you stop confusing yourself, you stop chasing clarity, and you start seeing it naturally, and that is how to fall in love in a way that is calm, confident, and real. So don't ignore the crossing of her legs. Don't dismiss it as habit. Don't reduce it to something visual, because it is not about appearance. It is about response. It is about the invisible shift happening inside her. And if you learn to read that shift without interrupting it, without forcing it, without misunderstanding it, you step into a completely different level of awareness, the kind of awareness that allows you to connect without pressure, to lead without force, and to understand without needing constant reassurance. And that is where real attraction begins to grow, quietly, steadily, and with meaning. All right, my friend, if you've stayed with me until this moment, that already tells me something about you. You're not here to guess, you're here to understand. And that alone puts you ahead of most men. Because most men rush. They react. They label things too quickly. But you're learning to slow down and read what's really happening beneath the surface. So the next time you see her cross her legs, don't fall into the old habit of asking, is she interested or not? Don't reduce the moment to a yes or no. That is shallow thinking. Instead, pause. Stay present. Ask yourself the better question: what just changed inside her? Because something always shifts before the body responds. Emotion comes first. Movement follows. That is the pattern you must learn to see. Understand this clearly. It was never about the legs. Never. It's about the feeling she hasn't put into words yet. Maybe she feels a little pressure. Maybe she's becoming more aware of you. Maybe she's protecting her space. Or maybe she's simply processing the moment. You don't know yet, and that's exactly why you must not assume. You must observe. Be the man who doesn't panic in silence. Be the man who doesn't chase every signal. Be the man who allows the moment to breathe. Because when you stay calm, when you don't force anything, when you don't react emotionally, you create safety. And in that safety, people reveal more of who they truly are. Here's my sincere advice to you. Stop trying to control the outcome and start mastering your awareness. Pay attention to the subtle shifts. Respect the unspoken. Let her feel without interruption. Because real connection is not built through pressure, it is built through presence. Stay grounded. Stay patient. And remember, the man who understands emotions without needing words will always stand out without trying. Take care, my friend, and I'll see you in the next video.